Hello, chat room. Setting up for episode 246 of your Unfilter program right now. About to start the overtime. Just doing a little file system maintenance, and then we'll be on the road. I'll be pushing buttons in the meantime. These, so let's see, how many gigs are, real quick, before I do the maintenance, how many gigs are currently being taken? 20 gigabytes. 20.4 gigabytes for the last 6 episodes of Unfiltering clips. That's actually not bad, too, because you imagine that's after we've purged a bunch of everything. Man, all the stuff that doesn't make it onto the show? Woo-wee! Hoo-wee! So anyways, I just want to do this really quick before I forget, because this is, as you can tell, it's starting to eat up quite a bit of drive space. So I'm going to roll off a few of the last few episodes, and then we'll be ready for the overtime. Let's see, let's check in on Mr. Chase. Oh, the yard maintenance just started. Well, what are the chances? That is really something. What are the... of course, why do I even say that? I know what the chances are. The chances are extremely likely. Well, screw me, huh? Between the air conditioner and yard maintenance, it's not going to be our best-sounding episode. Jeez, you know, it kind of seems to be the rub. The way that just seems to be the way the rub goes around here. Oh my gosh, that is unbelievable. All right. So we're getting to start a little earlier than we probably should because Chase is currently stuck in traffic. So we probably actually have a minute to kill. Although I already put this up on YouTube, so I have to follow the DMCA. Check it right there, man. It's just right there. It's really something. The chat room is with me. Hello, chat room. We also, you know, I'm going to launch into Discord, too, if you're trying out the new JB Discord. We talked about that recently on User Air and Linux Unplugged. And there is a unfiltered chat room over there as well. So there you have it. So maybe I'll hang out in there during the show. You know what I could do? Well, he's moving now. He's moving at 5 miles per hour. Let's do this. That's one of my favorite ones of his new songs. We're going to be playing Roads Deep by Mr. Ronald Jenkins, his latest album. How about I'll play a... Well, I got a lot of clips. Let's do this one. Maybe this will give a chance for the yard guy to pass, and we'll get Mr. Chase on the freeway at least before we start up. This is something that's been on my mind. You guys have probably thought of this too. So this will be one of them live stream only clips just for you guys. Oh, I got to change the unfilter frame before we get any further. The first thing I got to do is change that frame. How come nobody said anything with me? Nobody said anything in the chat room. Nobody even notices. It's time to get rid of the frames. Hashtag kill the frame. There we go. Now we're legit 246. Colors got to change. Numbers got to change. Dates. Nobody's... Oh, they did? Oh, okay. Well, I didn't see it. Chat room's like, oh, no, we said something, Chris. I'm like, oh, you did? I didn't see it. I didn't see it. But God bless America says, no, Chris, we tried to tell you. You know, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. Anyways, so chat room's here. We're going to be using the IRC for this episode. But do check out the Discord conversation we had recently in User Air or the Jupiter Signal if you're a patron over there, or on Linux Unplugged. Because out of all the shows, I think it has the most potential for Unfilter for live participation. I could see us, especially if we reach our milestone every now and then, could have a topic, and then we'd have a segment we would open up to either Club 33 or open up to the general audience. So that could be a really cool functionality, especially because it has direct API tie-in with Patreon. So it seems like out of all of the shows on the network, Unfilter could benefit the most. So do check it out. I think it's discord.me/Jupiter Colony. Yes, and sir, there is a section in there. There's an Unfilter chat room where you can suggest topics for Unfilter. So you can check that out. All right, so I'm going to play a live stream only clip. Mr. Chase is, I think he's on at 5 now. Yeah. All right, so we'll play this and then we'll get into the overtime. Hold on.
Twitter allows you to spread information instantly. Tweets can go viral within minutes and narratives formed even faster. Upon a cursory consideration, one might believe this is a positive thing. However, it's often the case that narratives can spread first, while the facts trail far, far behind. If a tweet appears to confirm our fondest hopes or darkest fears, it's only natural that we'd instantly hit that retweet button with little consideration for its veracity. The ability to breed in-group solidarity with one click leads to an abandonment of basic evidentiary standards. That's human nature, and it's understandable. This tweet first, think later approach predictably leads to kangaroo courts of public opinion, essentially mob rule. This phenomenon manifested itself on Twitter when 35,000 individuals retweeted a photo of a man that was accused of randomly pulling the headpiece off a Muslim. The tweets read, "This man at Baker Street forcefully attempted to pull my hijab off. When I instinctively grabbed a hold of my scarf, he hit me. He proceeded to verbally abuse my friends and I, pinning one of them against the wall and spitting in her face." Over 2,000 users angrily condemned the man and claimed that they would like to violently attack him. Many more called for his name, phone number, and work and home addresses to be published to presumably harass him for this most contemptible act. One problem. Though initially there were many calls to violence and harassment, there were not very many tweets to the tune of, "Perhaps we should wait till the police investigate, after all, we've only heard one side of the story." Confirmation bias had swept thousands away, like an engorged river after heavy rainfall. Not even verified Twitter accounts were safe, as they began sicking their followers on the man. "This is so awful, I retweeted. I hope they find this horrible person and lock him up." Hundreds of thousands of cursory observers saw hundreds of tweets and articles pour in that made them feel morally righteous and tingly inside. In their mind, it was an indisputable fact that this man was an unadulterated racist Islamophobe or something. So naturally, it became their moral obligation to insert a valuable half-second into retweeting this. But taking a few minutes to assess the preponderance of evidence would be, I think, a much more reasonable approach to this accusation than "someone should have pushed him onto the tracks." See, a cursory investigation of the available information revealed that there was indeed another side to the story. The man accused of attacking and tearing away this woman's hijab made this statement. Quote, "In regard to recent evidence, I was accused of a completely false allegation because I defended my partner by trying to completely defuse a racist attack from 3 other random females. As a result, one of the females in particular responded by making malicious, completely false allegations against me, and I would like to confirm I never hit or attacked anyone. I simply diffused a situation by separating them. The police is fully cooperating with me and will be able to obtain CCTV footage showing the 3 women attempting to attack my partner because we are in an interracial relationship." End quote. So, 2 completely conflicting stories, one of which sounding patently more reasonable than the other.
Oh, isn't that a common phenomenon? Gonna run into that a little bit ourselves today. God. Yeah, it's already got me triggered, guys. I'm already getting triggered. Yeah. Oh, well, Token Ring, I don't know. I mean, you know, some of our best community members, Alan and the Beard, have come from IRC. So we have many friends in IRC. It's not that it's more about fragmentation that exists in the community. And it's also about refusing to, I'm not going to get into it. We've already covered it so much. I got to stop talking about it. Okay, so it is officially time for L Overtime. I apologize for the background audio. I'll probably turn it off when Mr. Chase gets here and we open up the second mic. But yeah, it's episode 246, Overtime. And we're going to open up with a pretty good Nancy segment. Ah, the yard guy just came back. I thought he was done. Oh my gosh. What are the dang chances, though? I mean, come on. I just thought he was done. Like, this is really... it's almost a... I wish it was a bit. I wish it was a bit, but it is not a bit. Okay, well, we're just going to proceed anyways. At least the first part will have music over it. All right, in 3, 2... You know the show's not over yet. Look at that playback time. No, it's just the overtime. Brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/unfilter.
Stay woke. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
Hello, there we go. I had to reclaim a little bit of time there before we get started. Thank you to our patrons for making this segment possible. We got three new supporters. Three new supporters. In fact, the story's a little sad. We've slid a little backwards in our goal to go to twice a week. But the march continues on. Patreon.com/unfilter. 3 new subscribers. Thank you guys for supporting us. Special thanks to John, Sean, and Robert. John, Sean, and Robert this week came in, and they are our 3 new patrons. Thank you guys. This segment's not only dedicated to you, but dedicated to all the patrons. So we got lots to cover. You heard me, though. I'm already all excited. You know what I'm already... I'm reclaiming time right now, guys. Reclaiming my time!
Reclaiming my time.
Let's do the Oh Nancy segment right here off the top. And, of course, we do have some Maxine things to get to that I'm very excited about. But we got to start with the segment's namesake, Miss Pelosi. And she's at her best when she goes to one of the Sunday shows or one of the interview shows. She really shows up at in her all best. And she can dodge questions like Neo in The Matrix.
Seats were not seats.
I've got 30 seconds, and the question is, what are the chances Democrats win back the House in 2018, and if so, will you run for Speaker?
That's so unimportant.
Hold on. So the question was, what are the chances the Democrats are going to win back some seats? And that question is unimportant? Your party's kind of devastated, lady. That's why he's asking you the question. See, that's why the Wallace question came out. That's, let's do that one more time.
The question is, what are the chances Democrats win back the House?
What are the chances?
In 2018, and if so, will you run for Speaker?
That's so unimportant. What is important is that we have the lively debate on a better deal.
Oh. That new slogan still just isn't working for me. And then when they double down on it.
Better pay, better jobs.
It just sounds so cheap.
And a better future. And that's what we look forward to having.
Oh, so it's not a question if they're going to win any House seats. It's a question about how good that debate about a better deal is going to be. That's her at her best. She's not so great, though, during your press conferences, where we get the majority of our own Nancy material that demonstrates perfectly the rot of the leadership of the establishment Democratic Party. Oh, hallelujah, everybody. This is Nancy Pelosi flubbing the oath of office while simultaneously lecturing people about taking the job seriously.
As you know, today we will be debating what's called the minibus. Not an omnibus, everything, a minibus.
Okay.
And it's on the subject of security.
Uh-huh.
As you know, all of us, anyone who serves in government or civically involved, takes an oath of office to protect and defend, support and defend the Constitution.
I'm sorry, what? Did you just have to look down at your notes there? Did you just look down at your notes to know what your oath of office is while you're...
Takes an oath of office to protect and defend.
Oh, girl.
Support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Our first responsibility is to protect the American people and our Constitution. If people are not safe, how can we proceed in any other way?
Yeah, that's right. Strong. That's strong leadership right there. It's with this strong leadership that there seems to be a vacuum in which scumsuckers like Adam Schiff survive, and others, like Maxine Waters, seem to flourish. Especially if you're not a huge fan of either precisely following the rules, or maybe your power zone is just outside of decorum. Then you're able to say all kinds of things and dismiss all kinds of criticism.
Well, we thank you for being here. I have to ask you on your way out, Tucker Carlson did a send-up to you last night.
A send-up. A send-up is MSNBC speak for did a total takedown of your ass. He pointed out, he just did some simple math and was like, how come Maxine Waters has this crazy super expensive mansion in one of the widest, most expensive areas of LA that's not even the district that she's representing? How does Maxine Waters own 3 homes? And she's simply, if you look at her payroll, and you look at her taxes, she's been in government for about 40 years. This is about her 40th year she's been doing this thing. You look at the money she's making there, it doesn't add up. So he's just wondering how that could work. And then they kind of speculate after that that they look at some of her recent trips that she's been taking, like to New Hampshire and stuff, and they go, maybe she's positioning herself to run for president. So I guess that's MSNBC for send-up.
We thank you for being here. I have to ask you on your way out, Tucker Carlson did a send-up to you last night, claiming in a conversation with Larry Elder that you are running for president in 2020. Is there any truth to that?
No, just because I'm going to New Hampshire to be at a Democratic Party event for one of my colleagues, they made this story up. They're trying every way they can to discredit me or to make people uncomfortable with me, all of that. So you're going to be hearing a lot more from these people who are all, aligned around trying to discredit Maxine Waters because she has stayed on Trump's case so.
Ooh, I love the third person. That's my favorite part.
Aligned around trying to discredit Maxine Waters because she has stayed on Trump's case so much. And so you're going to hear a lot more from them. Well, don't believe anything they're saying.
No, how about, Maxine, I think you're supposed to say you're going to be hearing a lot more from me, not a lot more from them.
Stayed on Trump's case so much. And so you're going to hear a lot more from them.
No, you've stayed on Trump's case. You're going to, oh, jeez. Boy, man, could somebody help her?
Well, don't believe anything they're saying.
And I'm glad we're going to also hear a lot more from you, Congressman Maxine.
Oh, thank you, Joy. Oh, good. Cleaned that right up, didn't you? Thank you. All right. Now, Maxine has gotten quite a bit of attention, and I got to give her a real A for performance this week. And I'm not kidding. That is not sarcastic. I really, really mean it. I'm giving her an A. So you may have seen some of the clips. I'm going to play it in some context so you have the whole sort of flavor of the event here. This is Maxine Waters speaking to Steve Munich, I think is actually how you say his name, although people say it different ways. Well, he's in the Treasury.
House
Reclaiming my
Intel
time.
Committee with the
Reclaiming
Senate
my time.
Judiciary
Reclaiming my
Committee.
time.
Okay.
Reclaiming
Matter of
my
fact,
time.
Mr. Secretary,
Reclaiming my
the time belongs to the gentlelady from California.
Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, I don't understand the rules because I
Reclaiming
thought I
my
was allowed to
time.
answer questions.
Reclaiming my time. Would you please explain the rules and do not take that away from my time?
So this is Maxine Waters here.
I was going to answer that.
And this is the Honorable Munchkin.
Just please go straight to the answer.
Mr. Chairman, I thought when you read the rules, you acknowledged that I shouldn't be interrupted.
Now, the question that she has is, how come you haven't been responding to a letter of mine?
And that I would have
Reclaiming
the
my
opportunity.
time. What he failed to tell you was when you're on my time, I can reclaim it. He left that out, so I'm reclaiming my time. Please, will you respond to the question of why I did not get a response?
The question?
On to the question of why I did not get a response, me and my colleagues, to the May 23rd letter.
Well, I was going to tell you my response.
Just tell me.
Okay, so first of all, let me just say that the Department of Treasury has cooperated extensively with the Senate Intel Committee, with the House
Reclaiming
Intel
my time.
Committee,
Reclaiming
with the
my
Senate
time.
Judiciary
Reclaiming
Committee.
my time.
Okay.
Reclaiming
Matter of
my
fact,
time.
Okay.
Mr. Secretary,
Reclaiming my
the time belongs to the gentlelady from California.
You hear the way he says that? Listen really carefully. I'm going to just turn it up a hair.
Lady from California.
It sounds a little bit like he's a little beside himself.
Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, I don't understand the rules because I
Reclaiming
thought I
my
was allowed to
time.
answer questions.
Reclaiming my time. Would you please explain the rules and do not take that away from my time?
So she really has quite the performance. It's really about this. So she sends him a letter asking for information. It happens to be information that they already provided to another committee. And so the proper chain is for her committee to speak to the other committee and for the committees to exchange information if everybody has the right classifications, which they do in this case. And so he's simply trying to say, procedure is that you get it from somebody else, not directly from us. And so we called you and we talked to your people and said that's what you should do. but she wasn't having any of it. But the people love it. The one that's got the most acclaim right now is, of course, the gospel mix.
You want to talk about the things I've done, but I'm reclaiming my time.
This is one of those record multiple videos, really a lot of hard work, and the guy just really gets into it here.
Stop talking. My time. Do you know the rules? My time. When it's my time, I can take it back. My time.
You got to figure that this kind of coverage, this sort of virality of something where she's really sticking it to a bureaucrat has got to be great for a public image. And all kinds of people have been remixing.
I can reclaim it. He left that out, so I'm reclaiming my time. 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 My time. My time. Reclaiming my time. My time. My time. Reclaiming my time.
Yeah, one of the other things that's happened more now is they're calling her Auntie Maxine. Of course, I believe she's nearly 80 years old, so you could be calling her Grandma Maxine, but Auntie's much more charitable.
Is there some reason why I did not get a response to the letter that I sent May 23rd?
First of all, okay, let me just say that the Department of Treasury has cooperated extensively with the Senate Intel Committee, with the House Intel Committee, with the Senate Judiciary
Reclaiming my time.
Okay? Matter of fact,
Mr. Secretary, the time belongs to the gentlelady from California.
Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, I don't understand the rules.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
I don't understand the rules.
I really can't believe this. This is a meme. This is she's gone viral. This is incredible.
I was going to answer that.
Just please go straight to
This is another
Mr.
one.
Chairman,
I'm
thought
making
when
a
you read
point.
the rules, you acknowledged that I shouldn't be interrupted and that I would have
reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
Okay, so I think you're getting the point, although I do have to play my favorite.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from California.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. And do not take that away from my time.
Okay, so those are in the supporter sync, and I've linked to a few of them in the show notes if you want them maybe for a ringtone or something. It's shocking. It's amazing because what it does is it bubbles up to mainstream, and it keeps the mainstream talking about Maxine Waters, the maverick of the left, Maxine Waters.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters is trending right now for not letting Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, my bad.
You know what? It happens to me too, Whoopi. It happens to the best of us, so don't feel too bad. But I do have to say thank you. Thank you for doing this political coverage, because it's this horrible bastardization for political commentary that drives people to a podcast. I thank you.
Avoid her question at a congressional hearing, and she sparked a new catchphrase. Take a look.
Being a resident of California, I appreciate everything that you've done for the community there.
I don't want to take my time.
I also have appreciated the opportunity to meet with you
my time.
several times
Reclaiming my
when we were doing our... Mr. Chairman, I thought when you read...
So The View does their coverage of the clips that I've just played you, and of course they just love it, even though she was actually kind of being rude over something that she didn't really follow the quite right procedure for, which, let's be honest, that's what this place is all about. I mean, it's that whole place is that's what they get off to is procedure.
Yes! Now, I believe Maxine is coming here. Friday.
Yeah,
So this is kind of why we're fondling her balls right now.
She's going to reclaim her time
We're going to give her her
Reclaiming my time.
So I just thank you so much. Of course, they then have to do the viral thing, and so they there you go. They're all in. They're all in on President Maxine. Maxine 2020. In page 45. Maxine 2018. Maxine 2018. In page 45.
Reclaiming my time.
I think CNN's taken this fake news thing to heart, and so they're really trying to demonstrate how seriously they take source-based reporting and the years of journalism that they have that influence their decisions. That's why it was a little awkward when CNN totally blew the Priebus announcement. There was rumor circulating that Reince Priebus was out, or Reince. I don't mean to whoopee that, but that's how it goes. Priebus was out. That's the rumor, but it hadn't been confirmed yet by the White House. And CNN goes on the air and says, nope, that's fake news. Priebus he's in, he's safe. His job is good. Thumbs up, no problem. The problem was, that source was shit, and they totally exposed CNN for using shit sources on air. So this next conversation is rather awkward.
Analysis, Gloria, it is rather extraordinary. We've seen resignation now after resignation. Sean Spicer, the press secretary, resigned earlier in the week. His close friend and ally in the White House, Reince Priebus, now gone.
Right, and I think in a way the Reince Priebus departure is not a surprise. Although we did get pushback on it today, but we had heard...
When you say pushback, a lot of our viewers don't understand that. Are these people...
Awkward, uncomfortable.
When you say pushback, a lot of our viewers don't understand that. Are these people...
It's funny that the thing he's laughing at is a lot of our viewers don't understand. That's hilarious, because he must be thinking to himself, well, that's a fucking understatement. And it's so weird. Okay, so this is when the awkward starts right here, is when that guy uncomfortably giggles.
Pushback. A lot of our viewers don't understand that. Are these people simply out of the loop? They don't know what they're talking about, or are they lying?
Talking about the source. They're being vague because they're a little butthurt, but they're talking about the source that told them that Priebus was safe.
It could be a little bit of both, and it could also be that the person involved didn't know at that point. Well, if it's hard to know, all I know is, you're only as good as your sources, and you have a source that tells you that Reince Priebus will be gone, and then you have a good source that tells you that's not the case. And
well, clearly the sources that were pushing you away are not good sources. So you got to be careful with those sources down the road. Either they don't know what they're talking about, or they're lying.
Well,
so those sources presumably will go away.
But I'm
That's
not
my
the only one.
experience as a reporter.
That's awkward, right? It's getting okay. So now it's getting awkward.
You're only as good as your sources, and you have a source that tells you that Reince Priebus is...
And so she says you're only as good as your sources, and then he goes on to attack her for her sources here. See how that's got a little awkward here?
We're pushing you away are not good sources, so you got to be careful with those sources down the road.
And then for you audio listeners, I got to paint the scene. So when she does that awkward laugh, she also points at him like, "Yep, fuck you. That's right. Yeah, you're really making this hard."
That we're pushing you away are not good sources, so you got to be careful with those sources down the road. Either they don't know what they're talking about, or they're lying.
Well,
so those sources presumably will go away.
But I'm not the only one here.
As a reporter.
Thank you. I'm not the only one here doing the reporting on this. And when you get...
Don't put this all on me. There's a whole team. They just tell me what to say.
Differing stories from a White House in which there are competing interests, and you have to understand the decider is the President of the United States, and we were told, or I was told, that the president had made his decision, but you never know until you know in these situations,
particularly with Donald Trump.
Particularly with this.
Well, let me bring Caitlin into this.
You want to know? I have a little mini bacon. I think Priebus was her source. I think he's been a leaker. So I think he might have been her source. She pings him over text. Hey, are you safe there? Yeah, Trump and I have talked about it, but we're good. I'm not going anywhere. The new guy comes in, and he's like, no, he's got to go. Look, he's been leaking. He's got to go. And so Trump decides he's out, and then Priebus finds out the hard way after he's told her he's safe. That's one of my bacons for it. How about something for our friends over across the pond, as we say, although I don't think many of them listen anymore. Are you still listening? I know a couple of you are, especially there in the chat room, but I feel like things have been so crazy here, it's been consuming a lot of our time. So a little catch-up story here.
Prime Minister Theresa May has lost yet another of her top Brexit strategists. She was also recently voted Britain's most unpopular leader ever at this stage of a premiership. Nonetheless, despite the turmoil at home, she's enjoying a 3-week-long break in Europe. Bolly Boyko has more on that.
The Prime Minister was meant to be getting away from it all, but back in London, yet another member of her senior team has gotten away from her. Downing Street's now former Director of Strategy, Chris Wilkins, has quit. This follows 4 other resignations of May's closest aides. The Prime Minister has now been abandoned by the very people that helped set out her vision for Brexit.
The choice is becoming ever more clear. Me and my team, with our eyes fixed on the future, strong and stable leadership with me as Prime Minister to see us through Brexit and beyond, or a coalition of chaos.
But with the plan's architects no longer in the picture, Theresa May is short of advisers at a time when she needs them most.
This is a critically wounded Prime Minister. She had a disastrous election campaign, an election campaign that she went into 24% ahead and ended up losing. This latest resignation of Chris Wilkin is just another example of part of the disastrous team that ran us into the election, running off the ship like rats. I think that this is a wounded government and a wounded Prime Minister.
Britain has less than 2 years to negotiate Brexit on its current course. But Brussels is still waiting for clarification of the UK's stance on key issues. And Theresa May's struggles don't end with Brexit. The scandal over the Grenfell fire disaster rages on. London's Metropolitan Police have now announced that local authorities are under suspicion of corporate manslaughter. Wow. Meanwhile, Theresa May has admitted that her party has been wrong on gay rights in the past, with May now being urged to compensate tens of thousands of men who had been convicted in the UK under anti-gay laws decades ago.
So there's an update for you. Those of you that are in that region, how would you rate the balance of that coverage? Obviously skews negative, but how would you rate the balance of the accuracy? There's also another story that I'm not sure is 100% accurate. I haven't seen many retractions, although I did see a statement by the CEO, but here's the initial story.
You can catch more beyond.
You can keep going, gal. What's that? I'm sorry. You want to start over? Oh, okay. Here, there you go.
You can catch more of Bianca's reports on the dark web from the Black Hat briefings in Las Vegas.
Oh, everything about that sentence makes my brain hurt. Oh, God, I wish I hadn't played it back.
Later this week, you won't want to miss it.
Oh, yes, I will.
iRobot's Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner has made a real revolution when it comes to in-house cleaning. It's a dream of any family to keep their home clean without actually having to do all the work. However, this smart vacuum cleaner may be collecting more data than dirt. RT correspondent Ashley Banks has more.
Okay, I have to be honest. It did cross my mind about a month ago. We have a small space. You know, it can't be more than 300 square feet, but I think it's probably more like 280. With 3 kids and 2 adults, especially when we're at campsites that are sandy or gravel or dirty, it gets so dirty in there so fast. And then we have slides that have to come into our RV, and that dirt goes under the slides and it can damage them. So keeping on top of it, I end up sweeping a couple times a day or vacuuming. So it crossed my mind because this thing's also battery powered. So I could charge it up using DC and then let it just run around. I don't know if it's capable of cleaning an RV or not, but it crossed my mind. And I thought, God, that would, even if it just made a 50% improvement, that would be really remarkable. But now I'm not so sure.
In the next 3 years, your personal data may be sold to Amazon, Apple, and Google thanks to the robotic vacuum cleaner named Roomba. Roomba was created by parent company iRobot back in 2002. Over the last 15 years, the vacuum cleaner has become more and more advanced. iRobot says Roomba's greatest benefits are that it saves time. It's good for those who are disabled. It has advanced cleaning features that can detect changes between surfaces such as hardwood flooring and carpet. And then there's minimal maintenance. So if the battery is running low on the device, it will recharge itself, enabling it to last for years. And after all, who wouldn't want somebody or something else to do all the dirty work for them? However, you may want to go back to vacuuming the old way because Roomba will soon be doing more than collecting your physical dirt. What? According to media reports, iRobot will use Roomba to collect and sell floor plans of your home and track how often Roomba empties the canister, determining how dirty or clean a household is.
Now, you see, the floor plan thing, that'd be really weird data from an RV, but the tracking my behavior stuff, that's just where it begins. Just where it begins, my friends, and I'm not a fan of that. Looks like you guys say the coverage is fairly accurate. Could use some coverage of the pro-Brexit side. And Veritunda also links to a YouTube video that you could search post-show called Raspberry Pi Vacuum Cleaner Part 1. Yeah, so they're going to sell that basically to advertisers to correlate it. It's really about getting all of the different data points. Just when you empty your Roomba and when it vacuums on its own is not what they're after. They're after an entire set of data from many companies that tells them what kind of slob you are. And then they can advertise directly to you. So that's pleasant. You know, one of the things that I always hear Sean Hannity defenders say is Sean Hannity is an opinion show. It's not news. Fox is news during the day. And then opinion at night, especially when O'Reilly was on and now Tuckerson. And the 5 or whatever it is. It's not news. That's opinion. So that's why this next clip really rubbed me the wrong way. And I think it'll be obvious right off the top why. But the information inside is worth hearing. But I feel like Sean Hannity can't use the shield of he isn't a news program, it's a commentary program after this clip. He has now null and voided that argument.
And welcome back to Hannity, Fox News Alert. According to an explosive new report by The Hill's John Solomon, newly declassified memos.
Fox News Alert, all right? You got the swooshy thing with the ding, and you say it's a Fox News Alert.
And welcome back to Hannity, Fox News Alert. According to an explosive new report by The Hill's John Solomon, newly declassified memos detail how the National Security Agency and FBI violated your civil liberties during the Obama years. Here on this explosive report from The Hill, John Solomon, CircaNews.com, Sarah Carter. It starts out, I don't think TV's ever seen me with glasses before.
Then he puts glasses on like a news anchor while he reads a report. Now he's doing the news anchor thing.
The National Security Agency, FBI, violated specific civil liberties protections and during the Obama years, improperly searching, disseminating raw intelligence on Americans, failing to promptly delete unauthorized intercepts. This is exactly where we all started together in many ways. Tell us what you got.
So he just slammed through that like an excited maniac because he's really beside himself. Essentially, there is a report, I think, this is what I'm grokking from his excitement and from their discussion later on. This report is essentially damning. It says that there were people's names unmasked and then distributed within the government. There was actually classified information, and then they had to recall that information. Well, guess what doesn't happen? So lots of people had their hands on names, associates with Trump, that shouldn't have had them, which was essentially NSA data. A lot of people had what is normally hidden revealed, and then it was disseminated amongst all kinds of levels of the federal government. Then employees had that information, and then the FBI had to send out a recall.
That's right. I think in March we talked, we find out that some of the unmaskings were improper, illegal, and these documents for the first time show that there were instances where the FBI, the NSA unmasked American names, sent them across the intelligence community, and then had to call them back because it was illegal to have had those names. There's other things too. They searched Americans' names illegally. They shared illegal information with people who weren't entitled to get Americans' names. So all the abuses that we were worried about at the beginning when we started talking about
this Brennan and Clapper? Because I suspect Brennan and Clapper and Rhodes and Rice and others still have their hands in the deep state.
Well, there's no doubt that this occurred on Barack Obama's watch. These are violations from 2009 to 2016. And I think their greatest impact, and I think Sarah could talk about this, is this may affect whether this law, this Section 702 law that allows spying on Americans, whether it gets renewed in December.
Yes, 702. The mother of all loopholes that allows the NSA to really be part of the network and monitor all of the things. This is the big one. This is the big one, guys. Section 702, which you've been hearing me talk about all year. all year for 6 months now. And during a lot of testimony footage that we've played, they've talked about renewing Section 702.
Affect whether this law, this Section 702 law that allows spying on Americans, whether it gets renewed in December.
This is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now what we know in talking to people on the Hill in Congress is that there are not enough votes to renew Section 702. And I can tell you that the intelligence community really relies on Section 702.
Yeah, they're really hamstrung. That's why it's going to have to pass.
To track terrorists, to search emails and financing, to prevent possible attacks.
I love that that's what they come up with, terrorists and their shitty emails.
But the violation of this law has become such a threat right now that neither the House the House right now does not have enough votes to pass it. They want, one, accountability. They want an investigation. I know people want to know who the leakers are, and they want accountability.
Yeah, I think, you know what? They really should have all of that before 702 gets renewed. That's a really, really good point. While we're talking about this kind of stuff, this deep state stuff, I want to play the remainder of the Hersh tape where he really takes a big crap on Brennan, the director of the CIA, and says that it's his operation. This whole Russia scandal is his operation. And his insights at the end, I really found interesting. He is going to tell you why Brennan and the CIA and as a whole, like Mike Morrell and Clapper, the director of the intelligence apparatus, why they were all so in with Hillary. And it was for a really, really selfish reason. It wasn't because they thought she was going to be the best president.
I can tell you right now, Brennan's an asshole. I've known all these people for years. Clapper's sort of a better guy, but not rocket scientist. The NSA guy is a fucking moron. And the trouble with all those guys is that the only way they're going to make it to a board or two and get hired by SAIC to deliver some fat cat contracts is if Hillary stayed in. With Trump, they're gone. They're done. They're going to live in their pension. They're not going to.
Let's stop right there. So Brennan, he says, is an asshole. He says that the NSA guy's a moron. He says the only reason they're all in with Hillary is because if Trump gets in, I can't remember the timing of this, if Trump gets in, all they get is a pension. Think about that for a second. Is that not the most typical government bureaucratic thing? If Hillary gets in, they get a big, sweet contract somewhere as an advisor, which we see happen all the time under Obama. Didn't we see that happen all the time? All the time. That's anybody. As soon as you were done with government, but you're right. But he's right. Hersh is right now, and now we have retrospect on when this Hersh recording was. Chat room, can anybody in the chat room know when the Seymour Hersh recording's from? I know it was posted 3 weeks ago, but now we see what's happened when people have left because Clapper's left, Brennan's out. We see what happens is they just retire, but in the past they would have gotten big fatty contracts. So he is essentially right, and he says that's why they were behind Hillary because they wanted them fatty contracts.
With Trump, they're gone. They're done. They're going to live in their pension. They're not going to make it. And I got to tell you, guys in that job, they don't want to live on their pension. They want to be on boards like they're make $600,000 for going to 4 visits. I have somebody on the inside. I've been around a long time and I read a lot of stuff. I have somebody on the inside who will go and read a file for me.
This is Seymour Hersh right here saying, I have somebody on the inside, which, boy, I bet he really hates that this got out. I got somebody on the inside who will go just read a classified FBI file for me. That's my source.
This person is unbelievably accurate and careful. He's a very high-level guy. He'll do a favor. You're just going to have to trust me. I have what they call it in my business, long-form journalism. I have a narrative of how that whole fucking thing began.
It's interesting. He starts, he's talking about what he considers himself, which is a long-form journalist, which is exactly what I consider Unfilter. I don't know. I just think that's an interesting parallel. It's like we have a long-form coverage that evolves over time, and it's it's like a time machine when you go back and listen to it, and you can see when Russia first started talking about Russia, when we first started talking about Seth Rich, or when Trump really started to pull ahead. All of it is captured, and really it goes back even further. It goes back. What's great is it goes back to 2012, right? So there's all of the lead up to all of this, and the issues we were struggling during with and before. It's really incredible, and I consider this show one continuous piece of journalism in a sense. That's a really loaded word, so I'm just kind of co-opting it there because I think we need a new... Hi Seymour. I think we need a new phrase other than journalism, but if you use a different word, I kind of am really on board with what he's saying.
I have what they call in my business long-form journalism. I have a narrative of how that whole fucking thing began. It's a Brennan operation. It was an American disinformation, and the fucking president, at one point when they even started telling the press, they were back briefing the press. The head of the NSA was going and telling the press, this fucking cocksucker Rogers was telling the press.
He really doesn't like the NSA guy. He just called him a seasucker. So just so we are clear, he's saying that this entire Russia stuff is an American PSYOP campaign started by Brennan. That's what he's saying. And that the president's involved, and he's kind of pissed about it. And if you think about it, they have, there is that act that I can't remember it now because I wasn't planning to talk about it, but the act that talks about propaganda, that law is removed. So it's legal. Propaganda in the U.S., by the U.S. government, is 100% legal.
Even started telling the press, they were back briefing the press. The head of the NSA was going and telling the press, this fucking cocksucker Rogers was telling the press that we even know who in the GRU, the Russian Military Intelligence Service, leaked it. I mean, all bullshit. They were telling these... I worked at the New York Times for fucking years, and trouble with the fucking New York Times that they have smart guys, but they're totally beholden on sources. If the president or the head of the CIA tells them something, they actually believe it. I was hired at the Times to go after the war, in the Vietnam War in '72, because they were just locked in. So that's what the Times is.
The Times is locked into sources. So if they have sources that tell them X, they write X is true because that's all they have. It's where their businesses ended up.
72, because they were just locked in. So that's what the Times is. These guys run the fucking Times. And Trump's not wrong. I mean, I wish he would calm down and had a better press secretary. You have to be so... Trump's not wrong to think they all fucking lied about him.
He says Trump's not wrong to think they're all fucking lying about him. So that's that was what's remainder that we didn't really get to play in the main part of the show. How do you like that? Now, how about a little weird news? From the What Could Go Wrong department, a little human embryo editing.
In a lab in Oregon, as scientists fertilized human eggs, they also swapped out some DNA, correcting defective genes that carry disease.
Oh, here we go.
Proving it is possible to genetically modify human embryos.
Oh, good.
But fueling a growing debate.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those things that I think is inevitable. It's going to be hard to control, hard to regulate because the technology is so accessible.
According to MIT's Technology Review, which first reported on the breakthrough, the scientists used a technique called CRISPR, already used with partial success in China. Essentially a way to cut and paste DNA, replacing unwanted genetic information. Scientists say it could someday eliminate inherited diseases like some cancers, hemophilia, and sickle cell anemia. In Bloomfield, New Jersey, Michael Goodwin and his wife Faja are afraid to have children. He has sickle cell, she's a carrier.
If I could prevent my kid from having to be up in pain and crying 24/7, I would do anything in my power to stop that.
Of course. Of course. What parent wouldn't? I don't think any parent wouldn't, and that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Oh, we are about to get into a whole new territory, like splitting the atom. We are about to really go down a rabbit hole. That's all right. The Earth will be fine. The Earth will be fine. Okay, so there's this weird tendency that I think a lot of us have noticed with our president, Donald Trump. Maybe not your president, but here in the States, he's our president. And it's that he lies about anything. It seems to be pathological. He just lies for no reason. Like he lied to say he apparently lied and said that the Boy Scouts called him and said it was the best speech they'd ever had. They later released a statement saying, "We never called him. We never said that." And now today, same thing. Trump claims that the Mexican president called him and congratulated him on the security of the border, and then the Mexican president releases a statement saying he never called him.
As you know, the border was a tremendous problem, and now close to 80% stoppage, and even the president of Mexico called me. They said their southern border, very few people are coming because they know they're not going to get through our border.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the ultimate compliment.
So, Kate, that might have been the ultimate compliment for Donald Trump, but it also might not have happened. The president of Mexico, Enrique Peña Nieto, released a statement today saying that he has not spoken to Donald Trump recently over the phone. But we know that the last time they met was at the G.
So stop there. So you know what's funny about that is I wonder if Donald Trump just banks on the fact that the guy's not going to say anything. We're too important, so he's not going to rebuke that. I can say that. But the guy wants to just keep sticking it to Trump. He just wants to keep sticking it to him, and so he calls him out on it. He didn't have to do that, but it exposes yet again that he just seems to lie about anything. And I don't know what to make of that. It seems to be a peculiar trait of his, or it's either that or his recollection's off, or there's a constant disinformation campaign at every level and rebuking every single thing. Like somebody sitting back and listening to every interview with Trump and writing down, oh, he said Mexican. Okay, let's go release a tweet about this. I can't fathom it, really. It's really something. Okay, so, I talked about calling out Maxine Waters. Here's the clip of that. I forgot I actually had a clip of this.
Waters, a Democratic congressman, gets so rich. Waters has held elected office for pretty much continuously 40 years. She represents one of the poorest districts in California. Yet somehow she lives in a $4.3 million mansion in one of the richest and whitest neighborhoods in L.A., which, by the way, is not even in her own district. Now, we're not alleging wrongdoing here, but really, how did that happen? The New York Times talked to Waters recently, and here's how she responded to this show in our question. Quoting now, I own several properties. The way me, talked about it is, what right does an African-American woman have to do well? He doesn't know anything about my investments, about the house that I've lived in for 25, 30 years. This idea of how could she afford that is racist, and I just dismiss it.
Oh!
In other words, we're bigots for asking the question. You surprised? I mean, what else was she going to say? By the way, it doesn't look like she's lived in that house for 25 or 30 years. Real estate records suggest she just bought it 13 years ago and has spent an awful lot since to remodel it. So again, where'd the money come from? Maybe she borrowed it from relatives.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. So there you go. That's what the stand-up was, or the send-up was, I guess is what they called it. I don't know where they get that from. There is a lot going on in Venezuela. We have Venezuela. One clip, and then, hello there. And then we're going to get out of here.
Two leading opposition figures in Venezuela are in prison after their house arrest privileges were reportedly revoked overnight. The development comes just 2 days after Sunday's vote for a constituent assembly in Venezuela, a process which has been heavily criticized by the United States. For more, we go live now to RT's Marina Portnaya in Miami. Marina, both of the men detained overnight denounced Sunday's election and had previously been jailed. What more can you tell us?
What a situation in Venezuela. What a situation. It is remarkable. I have a couple of more clips in the supporter sync. If you are still getting the BitTorrent sync and want to watch that, I would really recommend it. Now, I also have a little Adam Schiff here, a little compilation. He has a hard time commenting on things in this Russia investigation, but if you do the math, he's been, I believe since January, he has done 14 hours of TV coverage about Trump and Russia. That's the new number, and I have a clip in the supporter sync that talks about that. And here's a little example and a taste of what most of that 14 hours has been.
Have you seen any evidence of collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign?
Wolf, that's not something that I can comment on at this point.
Is that true?
Well, I can't comment on who may or may not be the subject of investigation. Well, unfortunately, most of that I really can't comment on. I can't comment on who Bob Mueller may be looking at. I can't comment on what evidence we've been presented. I can't comment on what's been presented to us. Well, I can't comment on whether those reports are accurate. I can't comment on what Bob Mueller may or may not be investigating. I can't really comment on them specifically. I can't comment on what our committee is looking into. Beyond that, what's in the public domain, I really can't comment. I can't answer that in terms of the investigation. I can't comment on the content of any material. I can't comment on anything we may be learning privately. I can't comment beyond the public reports. I can't comment, and I can't comment. I can't comment. I can't comment, and I can't comment.
You kind of get the idea. Actually, funny enough, the one thing that Adam Schiff can comment on is that Russia dossier, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Huh. I'm surprised I didn't make that comment in the actual recording. Hello, live stream, just you and me again. Are we just hanging out now? I don't know why I keep showing Chase's screen. He's not even here yet. So I got a collection of clips for you guys today. Why don't we start with a polarizing figure? No, not Joe Scarborough, although he's in this clip too. Let's start with Michael Moore. Huh? That'll get your trigger fingers ready.
Joining us now, Oscar-winning filmmaker Michael Moore. His brand new one-man show on Broadway, The Terms of My Surrender, is currently in previews and officially opens on August 10th. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. They put me on. They knew not to have me come on at the beginning.
Not too early.
Yeah, you said you're working out sort of body clock issues right now with your Broadway debut.
Yeah, well, we just had the first weekend, so it's 8 shows a week.
Oh my goodness!
But that's
a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a workout for someone whose normal workout is, opening up the next bag of chips.
Oh, that's good.
So what are people going to see when they come to The Terms of My Surrender?
Well, they're going to. It's a piece of theater that I've written. It is a one-man show, but there are some surprises.
Right.
And so I have a number of stories to tell, a number of ways to. I try to answer the question, how the heck did this happen? And how do we prevent it from happening again? And in ways that normally aren't being discussed on television.
You were warning Democrats before that Donald Trump could win this election.
Yeah, no, I went further.
You actually said he was going to win it.
Yeah, last summer.
Yeah.
But I live in Michigan, though.
Right.
Right.
So what do you warn? How do you warn against something that you saw coming?
Well, obviously, I need better communication skills because I didn't succeed in convincing either fellow liberals or Democrats that the tsunami was coming. And I could not convince people connected to the Clinton campaign to please come to Michigan and Wisconsin. And now it's kind of like, I have a thing in my show where there's like a 12-step program that Democrats need to be in right now to sort of make sure this doesn't happen again, because we've won the popular vote in 6 of the last 7 presidential elections. All right, and yet we sit here this morning with no power, nothing. They have everything. Democrats control 6 of the 50 state capitals.
So what?
6.
So tell me, what happened to the Democratic? Because we can obviously look at Donald Trump's election, but as we say all the time on the show, Democrats have lost 1,000 state legislative seats. They've lost all these governorships.
Yeah.
What's happened to the Democratic Party? How did they get disconnected? And do you see anything coming out of Washington, D.C. from Democrats that's going to reverse that trend?
A better deal?
Well, part of this is that the Democrats aren't really disconnected because Hillary Clinton got the majority of Americans to vote for her. There were another 7.5 million that voted Green or Libertarian. So that's 10.5 million Americans who said they didn't want Donald Trump as president.
In that race, right.
Yes. But I guess the other side knew that there's this thing called the Electoral College. And nothing's really changing there in terms of, he seems to hold his support no matter, excuse me, what he does.
Right.
So
why is that? Why are there still people in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio that are still supporting Donald Trump when clearly 6 months in he's overmatched for the job?
Because I don't think the Democrats have yet to offer what the alternative is. And as we sit here today, I mean, do you see, even for, people, we're going to take the House back. And it's like, really? Well, where are all those great candidates for next year? Right. I mean, I think people, especially people who watch this show, who are wired into politics and what's going on, Democrats, liberals need to think about running next year, or get people in your legislative districts or your state Senate districts to run. Find a beloved American in your district and run that person who can win. And and I've said this to you before, we have to start running people who can win and people who are beloved by the American people and who understand how to talk, to the American people. And that's not a knock on Hillary Clinton. It's not just her. It's like I said, it's 6 out of the last 7 that we've won the popular vote. So the American public is liberal.
Right.
On the issues, right? The majority of Americans believe women should be paid the same as men, are pro-choice. They believe that there's climate change. Go down the whole list. Americans on the they won't call themselves liberals, but on the issues they're liberal. So why do we hold no power?
So Nick, I'll let you take it next, but just a better deal is their slogan. I think I weren't sure if you connected.
No, I heard that. Yeah.
Okay, so that's their slogan. Obviously, it doesn't really connect.
But it is
much.
3 words. We're down to 3 words
down
now.
to 3
Lock
words.
her up.
That's good.
Crooked Hillary. I guess that's 2
deal.
words.
Yeah, that's a good reach. That's a good reach, but it basically admits that then they're pandering to stupid people, which isn't true. It just means that they think it's true, which is damning. Do you follow my logic? You see, if he's saying, well, at least they've made it simple for the stupid fucking people so they know what the fuck to do, that's sort of saying that your base is dumb, and that kind of disrespect is what's leading you to this exact position that you're in right now.
But it is 3 words. We're down to 3 words now. Lock her up.
That's good.
That's easy for
Hillary.
stupid people. That's easy. That's good.
And you said we got to run candidates who can win. They tried to run a candidate in Georgia. You can't run a candidate. A candidate needs to step up. It needs to be within him or her.
Yes.
It needs to be the person that is the leader that steps up and people follow. And I just feel like they're trying to create constructs.
You can tell Joe's starting to have some convulsions because it's been so long since he's talked.
And there have been
discover
correct
talent.
That is so true, and there have been studies to show that when Democrats try to sound like Republicans, locally especially, when they move to the middle or to the right, they lose. When they actually run as Democrats and run on the liberal issues that the majority of Americans agree with, they win. But there's something about Democrats, they just feel, oh, the only way we can win, we have to appeal to those Trump voters or whatever. Right. Well, who we have to appeal to there are 8 million Obama voters that voted for Trump. We can win some of those back. Remember, I come from a state where Hillary lost by 2 votes per precinct. That's all she lost by, those 10,000 votes. Right. We can do this. We can get those people back. But it has to be a real concerted effort. And
I bet Biden would have won. I'm sure Bernie would have won. I think Joe would have won. Joe Biden. I think Hillary was just literally the worst possible candidate for them to run.
Cannot in Michigan and Wisconsin be waiting around for the Democratic Party in Washington they're not going to ride in on the white horse and save them.
Nick, wait, so if okay, so you said earlier that this is actually a left country, a progressive country. So if America is a progressive country, how are Democrats shut out at every level of government? They control nothing, as you said.
Right.
How can it's not really possible in terms of basic retail politics. If the country agrees with you, you can't get elected.
Exactly.
How is it possible?
Again, I think it comes down to running the right people. Now, California is the experiment right now. So there's a state where Democrats control both houses, the governor's seat, and things are getting done. Good things are getting done. But that's only happening in 6 states. So this is a real effort. It's anybody watching this.
What's the disconnect, Michael?
The disconnect.
What's the disconnect? Why are Democrats losing so badly everywhere?
Because they don't have the right people running. That's it. That's it. People watching this show right now who are Democrats or who lean that way or whatever need to think about running next year.
Right.
Even for local offices, school board, this is how the right did this. They did it the right way. I have such, as I said to you before, respect and admiration for the other side because they get the right people running locally, and then they have the courage of their convictions to stick to what they believe in, and they are up at 2 in the morning last week, still trying to pass something that only 17% of the American people were in support of. Right. You've got to admire the tenacity of that.
Right off the cliff. So, Josh, what do the Democrats do?
Yeah. Well, what Democrats clearly have to do is we have to figure out how to communicate better. Because I do think that what Michael is
Oh, look, there's Josh Earnest. Oh, man, the old Obama spicy. And, of course, his advice is we got to communicate better. Interesting. because that's what he specializes in.
Frustrating is that so much of what we have done to try to advance this country is generally supported, not by everybody, and not certainly on every single detail, but in terms of fighting for the values, whether it's making sure that everybody has health care, recognizing that the United States has to play a leadership role in the world in responding to a bunch of challenges, including climate change, making sure that we have a financial system that isn't rigged against people. These are the kinds of values that are unifying for Democrats, but
they toss that financial system when they're sort of arbitrarily, don't they?
Confounding about this is that the difference for Trump, and what was the difference for his success, and the difference in flipping some of these counties that had gone for Obama and gone for Trump, is that these are the people who are most directly affected by these issues, and Donald Trump is working against.
Well, Steve, that's always been sort of, Democrats have always asked the question, what's the matter with Kansas?
Yeah. So we go back to a remarkable video that you produced where you
He just totally, isn't that interesting the way he tosses that? So what Joe's doing is Joe's trying to play host and roll in the new guy with the toss to. I've done that on our shows. You know, I'll do it all the time on Linux Unplugged with Wes or a Mumble participant. I'll set him up with a question. But this guy, that's not what he wants to talk about. Yeah, and he just goes right on with his own thing. In some ways, you gotta love it because you don't want him wasting a bunch of time on something he doesn't have anything to say about. At the other end of it, as a host, you're like, but I was actually going somewhere with that. It's kind of funny to watch.
Democrats have always asked the question, what's the matter with Kansas?
Yeah. So we go back to a remarkable video that you produced where you explicate why Trump is going to win to voters. And you say, you know, people in Michigan, right, they're not racist, right? They're good people. And you go through that. As a Michigan guy who comes to New York, right, who's on the West Coast, the Democrats, do they have a problem do they have an elitism problem, a cultural condescension problem that is immunizing these voters in states like Michigan and Wisconsin from hearing them on some of these issues? What's the difference when you come to Manhattan between a Manhattan progressive and a Michigan progressive?
That's so funny. I was thinking about that the other day because when I lived between these two places back and forth, when I first came here, this was a state that had a Republican governor, a Republican mayor. It was the home of Rush Limbaugh. That's where his radio show came out of WABC, right? I mean, this from New York being such a liberal place, I come from a place that gave us the middle class, where unions and other things happened to raise the standard of living for everyone. And those people are still there and struggling, but they've been left behind. And please understand, they don't love Donald Trump. There's no, the way that people might have loved Reagan or whatever. They don't love Trump. They're angry. Trump was their Molotov cocktail to throw into a system that had not been there for them.
Ruth.
We need candidates that will be there for them.
Ruth Marcus.
So I totally agree, Michael, with your diagnosis that Democrats need to run the right people. But I'm kind of questioning and want to push you a little bit on whether the best people, the right people, are kind of coming at them from the left. When Democrats retook the House under the leadership of Rahm Emanuel, he ran people who were the right people for those districts, which were much more conservative than the kinds of candidates you're talking about.
Nancy Pelosi. I'm sick of that. Let's move on. So let's see here. You want to watch a cringeworthy skit? How about that?
Joy, as you know, I'm way too busy to watch TV. And oh, by the way, tell Sarah good luck with her pregnancy, and tell Jedediah congrats on her engagement.
No TV, huh? No. You know, you really need to get back on The View, Donald. Face it, you're polling lower than the Zika virus.
I know. I'll do anything, Joy.
Anything? Anything, really? Okay, get me that dossier.
Yeah, they're doing political skits now.
Fake news, Behar. And besides...
So here's the punchline. I'll save you the hassle. She gets him to sign a release form to come on the show.
Right there.
Tremendous.
He signs it.
There you go.
Okay, the producers will be in touch with you.
And the joke is...
This is a letter of resignation.
What? Does this mean I can't be on Guy Day Friday?
There you go. They're taking over for SNL. Why SNL has the season off, I guess. I don't know exactly what the idea is there. Let's talk about
Congresswoman Maxine Waters. Thank you.
You notice that's her fancy dress. When she's at fancy events, she wears that dress. Notably, also the same dress that she was wearing when she said reclaiming my time Interesting that maybe she knew that the cameras were going to be on.
Thank you for your work. Thank you for your voice and how you use it.
Yes, even the stars know we need our moment of Maxine. Joining me now for your moment of Maxine. For our moment of Maxine. A moment of Maxine. My moment of Maxine. I am pleased to welcome her back to AM Joy this morning for what we love to call our moment of Maxine. You have really become sort of the physical embodiment of the resistance. Congressman Waters, you're wonderful. You are one tough lady.
They call me Auntie Maxine. I've adopted them. We have a love fest going on.
Auntie Maxine, we're going to let you go.
That is how we feel like this. We are so honored to have you. And I don't know if you know this, but the kids are calling you the Queen of Shade. Have you heard?
Maxine,
Oh my gosh.
Maxine. I can say Maxine.
We're so excited to have you on.
I missed you. They told me you asked about me. How you doing, Mika? How you doing, Joe?
Maxine Waters is gonna headbutt Paul Ryan.
You imagine her.
Yeah,
Just
like she's
headbutting.
talking and just gets a little too close, and she just give him a nice.
But, you know, I dress a little up when you're coming. I had to throw on some pearls this morning. We hear the frog in your throat, but I think there are many of our viewers would say you are always at your best.
I think nobody is better at what she does than Maxine Waters.
And obviously,
You're so welcome.
to your dedication to all your folks back home in California and this country.
And I'm sorry I missed you at Busboys and Poets last night. I had to work. It's always so great to see you, even though we're not in person. Lovely to see you.
I tell you like the millennials, stay woke.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Yes, yes.
Stay woke, you guys. Stay woke. All right, so there's a little Maxine love for you. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember I mentioned he's done 14 hours of TV? I don't even want to play that clip. I don't even want to play it. Not even for the live stream only. Let's another supercut. That'll make me feel better.
Better skills, better jobs, better wages. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
What are they doing? I think it's a decent try, but it misses a point.
It's not terribly bold, to tell you the truth.
My initial reaction to it when it first started leaking out was that it was trash.
It's so bland. It's so vanilla. It's so terrible.
You think it's a winning slogan?
I have no idea if it's a winning slogan. Do I think it's the best slogan I ever heard? No, but it's a start.
Which a lot of people say sounds like Papa John's, better ingredients, better pizza.
Trump's message broke through because it felt authentic and it came from him. And I don't think anything in this slogan does that.
And they're now announcing a totally flaccid new slogan called A Better Deal.
And the Democrats unveiling a new slogan, and it's getting a cruel reception on social media. We're going to tell you what it is and why so many are saying, is that really all you got?
I could get your reaction to the stirring new motto of the Democrats. I'm speaking a bit ironically.
She's a shill. Oh,
Better
okay,
deal.
good.
And it's reminiscent, frankly, of the main pillars of the Hillary Clinton campaign, and obviously didn't resonate with people.
Nothing there that sort of punches you in the gut, that
See, they're actually being harder on it than I was, guys. You see, and I thought I was being hard on the Democrats, but they were actually even worse, weren't they? Let's see here. What's this? Let's see. What's this?
Queen Maxine, California Congresswoman Maxine Waters, is a champion of the anti-Trump movement.
Woo!
Los Angeles rioters, and now this Sunday she's paying a visit to the Granite State, New Hampshire. That can only mean one thing, of course, given that it's a long way from her district. She's running for president.
Certainly the inauguration is a way of welcoming in someone to the presidency and honoring them and respecting them. I don't honor him, I don't respect him, and I don't want to be involved with him. And so I'm questioning the patriotism of all of those Republicans who are allowing this president to side with Putin.
I think that Jeff Sessions is very dangerous. I think he's a racist.
This is a bunch of scumbags. That's what they are. This is going to put us a little bit further on our way to what I've been calling for so long, and that is impeachment.
Larry Elder is a radio show host in Los Angeles, a proud son of that city. He knows Maxine Waters, and he joins us now for a preview of her presidential campaign. Larry, it's great to see you. Why should, I mean, is it fair to assume if she's going to New Hampshire, all the way from Hancock Park, where she lives in L.A., that she's thinking about running for president?
Well, if she runs, she may have a few problems. Of the 535 lawmakers on D.C., Tucker, she's the only one, to my knowledge, who's written a letter to Fidel Castro urging him not to send back a woman who murdered a New Jersey state trooper, escaped, fled to Cuba. Congress passed a resolution urging Castro to return her. She wrote a letter to Castro. The woman who's escaped is a former Black Panther. She likened her to a freedom fighter, accused her of being a victim of the criminal justice system, and urged Castro not to return her to America. The woman, Joanne Chesimard, remains at the top of New Jersey's most wanted list, and Maxine Waters urged Castro not to send her back. That's point one. Second one is she falsely accused the CIA of basically fomenting the crack cocaine epidemic in the 80s and the 90s in the inner city.
That actually seems legit.
A argument that's been debunked by the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the LA Times.
Look at him go! Look at him go! Really? So because the newspapers debunked that the CIA was trafficking cocaine, you're gonna just go with that?
And of course, she had a meeting with the then Secretary of Treasury, urging him during the financial meltdown to bail out minority-owned banks without informing him that she and her husband had a financial interest in one of said minority banks.
There it is. Using the financial collapse and the bailouts for your own profit based on insider knowledge. That is evil. Oh, Maxine. Now, that one actually gets you the unfiltered red flag.
Husband had a financial interest in one of said minority banks, for which he was investigated by the House for ethics violation, played the race card. The violation, therefore, went supernova. It is one of the reasons, Tucker, why one of the left-wing groups, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, constantly labels her as one of the most corrupt politicians in Washington, D.C.
Well, I can't speak to that, because I'm not an investigator, but she's certainly good with money, because she's been in office for 40 years, I think continuously, 40 years this year, and yet she lives in a $4.5 million house in one of the richest, one of the nicest neighborhoods in LA.
She's a shrewd stock investor.
How does she do that? Like, what do you know the answer? Is it magic? I mean, how can I do something like that?
I'll just give you the Harry Truman answer. When you go into politics poor and you come out rich, you're stealing. And Tucker, we haven't even talked about her left-wing views, and they're no different than Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or Nancy Pelosi, but she champions herself, Maxine Waters does, as a champion of the inner city. So her policies for inner-city black and brown people are particularly corrosive. One of which, of course, is her opposition to vouchers. I went to a high school in the inner city, Tucker, called Crenshaw. If you saw the movie Boys in the Hood, that's my high school. Right now, 3% of the kids at that school can do math at grade level. But if you live across the street, you are mandated to send your kid to that school. Republicans want to give that person across the street a choice to say hell no. Democrats want that person to send their child to that school no matter what.
Hey, buddy. Oh, hi. I was
sorry.
just going to check the levels. I can leave that guy going if you need.
Oh no.
Okay.
I'm done with Tucker Muckles.
Yeah, me too. So I tweaked the gate a bit.
Yeah, and you're able to run. See,
do you think this is usable?
Oh, absolutely. Because
chat room, do you agree this audio is usable? We got the AC going. This is keeps it just pleasant in here. Hey, how is the smoke?
It was.
Is it smokier here or is it?
Oh, it's worse up here.
Oh, really?
Oh, totally. I mean, but it's down in Seattle for sure.
I'm parked in Bow right now, so that'll.
Wow, really? Why are you way up there?
Well, because last week my buddy Chase told me that it's going to be 100 degrees today. So
so you were heading for the border, and they stopped.
No, I just wanted shade because where I was parked at before, we were in the direct sun all day.
Oh, really?
From
dude.
Yeah. So and it's so if it's 80 out, it's 95 in the rig. So I wanted to just put it in shade. So it's been nice and comfortable.
I was going to say, you're talking about the gate. For those who don't know, it's a sound level cutoff thing. It's highly technical. We don't need to talk about it.
Soups.
But I was always wondering why you didn't do that, especially because your soundboard. Well, no, I mean like before.
Oh, we did.
Being able to run this and do
this.
We
did. It's just with the PRs and then the preamp level you need to really make the PR sound good.
Yeah.
It just really showed up, and so this is the first time I've had the AC in here since I switched over to the REs.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. By the way, we're having an interesting discussion at work about these microphones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
the RE 320 or the
320s.
Okay.
320s, yeah.
Yeah, that's what these are.
Yeah, we're so for those who don't know, not only I work at a TV station, but we also have 3 radio stations.
Yeah.
And we're in the middle of.
What do they use in the radio stations?
We have in the Como studio, Como FM, AM. We have these. Or they're not 320s. They're RE20. They're the higher end ones.
Yeah, just the RE20.
Yeah, RE20.
Yeah, which is in some ways, I don't know. It's a good mic. It's my favorite mic.
Yeah, we're contemplating because we're rebuilding out our studio. We're completely remodeling it, and so when we do that, we're going to get new mics, and so that's a big decision for on-air mics and stuff. But
I really, especially if you have good sound, I really like the RE20. The thing is if the RE20 out of the box, in my opinion, is one of the flattest mics out there. It's like you really gotta. So you gotta. But it's meant to be used with professional equipment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
totally.
I think this is a really good in-between, especially for people in our category of work.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for us and what we do, we want to have a high professional level. If you're still getting started out in podcasting, I mean, you can get by, and I got by for a number of years with an SM58 Shure.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. That'd be way better than like a Blue Snowball or something.
Oh, God,
or
yes.
a webcam microphone.
Yes,
or probably even like a headset mic, even like a nice headset mic.
Like a Logitech 920 webcam mic.
Those like the thing with headset mics is there's some that are good, but that microphone on that little mic that goes in front of your mouth is so small that it doesn't have a lot of surface area to capture a lot of sound. So it's really hard unless you go into something like the more professional line of those kinds of microphones. Something like the what's the ones that I actually own? What are those? What's that brand called?
PR40 Heil?
No, of the little
the Countryman?
The Countryman mics. Like that's where you can. Somehow Countryman manages to make it work, but even Countryman
you
don't sound as good as, say, like maybe an SM.
Right. It depends what you're doing on the back end.
Yeah, on the back end.
On the back end, having a nice back end is always important.
Yeah, so we have $150 gold-plated HDMI cables running from each microphone.
You forgot something. They are nitrogen infused.
Yeah, and of course I have to have an HDMI to XLR adapter, which is $200 at each end.
Yep, that's right. Gold-plated.
Obviously.
We're also using diamond vacuum plated crystal tubes for the highest of audio quality.
Balanced crystal tubes.
Balanced crystal tubes, of course. Yes.
So, and that is how we are able to do things like.
Oh, don't forget the elephant ivory inspired shock mounts.
Oh, of course.
Yes, that we're using as well.
Yeah, which just the way the ivory is sort of a looser packed material allows it to defer the sound in a way that is not really perceptible, but seems scientifically like some pretty solid bro science. So we go with it.
And don't forget our chairs. We have the full.
Oh God! Don't even start me on the fucking chairs.
$3,000.
Oh man!
These are the Aeron
each one.
Floatable. Each one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh jeez. God, I wish. This chair is so fucking rickety. It's falling apart. It makes this squeaking noise.
Oh, you know what? Oh, fuck.
We got to We got to do like a fundraiser for new chairs.
No, you know what?
The bell is. Can you fix the? Oh,
you're gonna hate me for this.
Something's wrong with the bell.
You're gonna hate me for this.
What?
So
wait, no, I'm not in the RV. The RV has much nicer chairs.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about that. We would be very comfortable. No, we are in the. We are in the studio right now.
You're gonna hate me for this.
What?
So you've been through Como, and I've shown you through the engineering department. And do you remember those high chairs that we have there? I don't know if you remember.
Vaguely,
they're high chairs for tables like these in studios and stuff. I had a chance to get some.
What? Really?
And I totally spaced.
And you grabbed them real quick and threw them in the back of your vehicle because you got a big Ford Escape with lots of room.
Yeah. I totally did that in my other life, but this life I decided not to do that. Now I'm kicking myself post haste.
Legitimately, the chairs are much more comfortable on the other side of the room.
I love doing user error
because you get to sit in the big red chair.
I love that big red chair.
Yeah, the big red chairs are way more comfortable than the chairs here at the main table.
Yes, we gotta improve that.
All right, so this is Unfilters.
Yep.
And it's the 246 variety.
Yes, 246. But wow, 246.
246.
I like this.
And God damn it, here we go. All right. So a chat room, please bang, suggest. Now would be the ideal time. You'll probably get a hint of what the show's going to be about from the intro, I'm guessing. Here we go. This is Unfilter, episode 246 for August 2nd, 2017.
When Democratic National Committee staffer Seth Rich was killed, a conspiracy was born. Caught up in it, this man.
I do believe I was used as a pawn in this entire thing.
His name is Rod Wheeler. He's a former D.C. homicide detective and Fox News contributor. And now he's filed a lawsuit against Fox News. Wheeler claims he was used to help fabricate a story connecting the murder of Seth Rich to the WikiLeaks release of thousands of emails from the Democratic National Committee.
Two, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Unfilter! Yeah!
I can't believe you went there right at the top.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
I did. I had to.
You, sir, are a reliable cornball. That's what you are. And I love it. It's one of your lovable traits.
Welcome to the show, everybody. We're coming to you live from the very comfortable JB1 Studios.
Quite smoky today.
Yes.
There is some BC smoke here. It is really something.
Now, listen, Chris.
It's a different kind of smoke than you might be thinking on this show, though. It's the wildfire kind.
I want to know why there isn't a wall between Canada and the United States to block out this nasty smoke, because this smoke is invading our country.
It's thick.
And I think what we should do is tax
Canada
back to clear the air.
We should charge them a few carbon taxes. That seems to be what's in order.
Well, it's all about the credits, Chris.
Maybe we're a little distracted because there's a lot of things to talk about this week.
Oh, my gosh.
Of course, we have a traditional cyber segment coming up here in just a little bit. Some interesting and perhaps controversial updates with Mother Russia. So much to talk about with Donald Trump and his revolving door. Debbie destroys a little more data, and then we're going to discuss some explosive, quote-unquote, is what everybody's been calling it, developments with Seth Rich.
Wow.
And then we'll wrap it up all on a very, very positive high note.
That's nice.
Yeah. You ready to just go for it? Should we just look at that? Look at what the chat room in there previewing a little bit of what we might be talking about.
What do I always say when we're about to cyber?
Well, you usually ask me for my age and my sex, and I tell you, God dang it, Chase, for the 246th time, we're not doing that on the air anymore.
No! I'm not wearing pants. What?
So there is a huge cyber news story because of the subject matter it involves, and I don't know what it is. I don't have any bacon to bring to the table. I don't have any information.
I was hungry.
But every one of these major Hollywood breaches where they really amp up the terminology and the vernacular always reads to me as bullshit or even potentially marketing. Going back to Sony with The Interview, now we have HBO.
Game of Thrones, the wildly popular show on HBO, is now battling a modern-day villain, one every bit as powerful as a fire-breathing dragon.
Okay, Chase, what is a modern-day villain that is as powerful as a fire-breathing dragon? What would...
A hacker.
Evil hackers reportedly leaked an alleged script or documents from an upcoming episode after HBO was hit by a cyber attack. The Hollywood Reporter says hackers also released upcoming episodes for 2 other series, Ballers starring Dwayne Johnson, and a new program, Room 104.
My first thought when I heard this was, okay, so what was released? Now, it seems to be different levels of information keep coming out. Some people said it's a vast amount of documents. Others have said, well, it's a script for the 2nd episode of this current season of Game of Thrones. It's some screen caps from the episode. And it seems to be like a promotional bundle that somebody copied and then released onto the internet, which is a total different level of cyber intrusion than somebody got persistent access to their network, removed things off of central storage, and then began distributing it and selling it online. And those are the scope in which, because that marketing material could have been on a marketer's laptop, a consultant. It could have been fished over a stupid email. That's a very, very simple, childlike attack versus a sophisticated, persistent network threat, which is a real cyber attack. It's hard to parse it, but listen to the language here.
It's unclear exactly the depths to which the information on HBO's servers has been breached, but
because they haven't said much.
Early indications are that this is a massive invasion.
I don't really understand what the massive
invasion. What movie was that?
Well, I don't really understand because it does. It's if you go by what's been released online, it's mostly stuff on torrent sites about Game of Thrones for people that want to spoil this next episode of Game of Thrones.
In terms to NBC News, it recently experienced a cyber incident.
Okay, that's pretty vague.
Which resulted in the compromise of proprietary information.
Well, that's also very vague. Proprietary information could be anything everything from your letterhead to the script for the rest of the season.
In a letter to employees, the network's chairman says any intrusion of this nature is obviously disruptive, unsettling, and disturbing for all of us.
What they're not reading here is also they promptly fired their director of IT security.
Nothing but multiple levels of departments having Herculean response to this. It's a textbook example of quintessential HBO teamwork. It's part of the world we find ourselves a part of.
That's from the memo.
Yeah.
Hollywood has become a big target for hackers.
It's not clear whether it's organized crime groups or hackers that are looking for the ability to boast about it.
It also could just be an insider who copies things to a thumb drive and posts it online.
And wanted to get some upvotes on Reddit.
I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that's what it is.
Right.
And I'm not trying. Perhaps this is a very significant compromise. I'm not ruling that out. What I'm pointing out is because the language and details are so vague, they can take something like the interview leak, which was a removal of quote-unquote proprietary information by an employee and disseminating it. That could be the same thing happening here for all we know. Or it could be, some massive cyber breach.
But it certainly is having an impact on these corporations.
Earlier this year, episodes from Season 5 of Netflix's Orange is the New Black were leaked online. And in 2014, a major hack at Sony unveiled embarrassing emails and other private information.
So what do you think, Chase? Is this marketing? Is this just simple leaks being blamed on a bigger thing?
In light of the interview situation that happened and everything, I'm going to reserve a little bit just because this information just came out not too long ago.
You don't know Red Book, huh?
Not yet, because
I agree. I think it is a wait and see. It is definitely a wait and see. But it's the big cyber story. You and I were chatting about something that was, I don't know, it's kind of stupid, I guess, saying it out loud now, but it felt a little disturbing at the time, and this story actually covers it.
Well, Google announced changes to its algorithm search last April, aiming to combat so-called fake news and conspiracy theories. In a blog post, a company executive said the technology would change its search rankings to help surface more authoritative pages and demote low-quality content.
So this happened to me today. You and I were chatting about it over Telegram.
Yeah.
Where I was searching for something, and it was about Seth Rich, and I searched on Google several times throughout the morning, and it never showed up. And I was like, well, why is this not? This has been talked about on TV in news coverage.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
Why is it not? Why are we not seeing this?
Yeah.
And so I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out, but I went over to Bing, did the search. Immediately was the first result. I went over to DuckDuckGo and I did the search. It was immediately the first result.
So, I mean, is this Google's advanced algorithm that if they saw these keywords put together that all of a sudden it would just go away? That kind of thing?
That seems to be what they're implying here.
But according to my next guest, some believe this new algorithm is doing more than filtering out fake news. Andre Demin, reporter for the World Socialist website, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So before the election, many on the right were complaining that conservative articles were not coming up on Google searches, and now we're hearing something similar from the other side of the aisle. So you believe that the website you work for in particular is being targeted?
So anyways, we don't need to hear his sob story. That to me is it seems too far. It seems editorial, and that I guess isn't totally new for Google. But
this has happened with Google before, where they constantly tweak their algorithm, like for example, to combat these ad farms and things like that.
Aren't they supposed to be an index of the world's knowledge? And if I want to do, if I am a hardcore leftist or a hardcore rightist, and I want to read or listen to what somebody else is saying, and I want to do self-education.
Right.
Shouldn't that be what Google's for, and not deciding what is because it's essentially thought policing.
Well, yes and no. I just because of the fact that remember that time that a lot of people started gaming Google search results by all they had to do was put links within links, and then they had these big ad farms, right? And so you try to combat that with an automated process. I think here Google obviously they want to try to get away from people that are propagating straight lies, right? And just straight untruths and straight just bad stuff. At the same time, you got to balance that with the legitimate stuff, and this is where all the brains in the world is probably not getting it right. I don't think this is intentional. I don't think they're trying to block out people getting information. It's just
it seems pretty intentional.
Well,
seems like they're actually they're actively creating code to to make sure that certain. So you think about it. So the term that I was searching for came up in the last 24 hours, and it was something that was in the news cycle within the last 24 hours.
Right.
So somebody at Google had to take action within a 24-hour time period to put this phrase on a list to make sure that when people searched for it, they wouldn't get any results.
Now, have you tried with Google doing the same search term, but instead of just doing the general search index, going over to the news section and searching from there?
No, but I did try a bunch of different. Like rephrasings of the same search.
Right.
Like I tried reordering the words and things like that, and I got nothing. So I'm going to do a search right now.
And have you tried incognito mode?
It still doesn't show up. It's still not showing up, even right now. Okay, I'll try incognito.
All right,
mode.
now and then,
no, it's still not showing up.
And then try. So hit the news tab at the top there and see what you get.
News tab. Still not showing up. And it's a website too. It's a .com that is being linked by news agencies.
Right.
So I'll tell you the claim, the phrase is debunking Rod Wheeler's claims. And when I search on Google for that, I get a much different result than if I go to, say, DuckDuckGo. So let's go over to, or should we do Bing? Would that be funnier? Let's go to Bing, because Bing's kind of funny.
Well, I mean,
everybody knows DuckDuckGo is probably legit, but Bing, right? Bing.
Yeah, Bing.
So we go to Bing, and boom, right there, top results, right there. Plus videos about debunking Rod Wheeler's claims right here. There is a huge agenda difference.
You know what I noticed though? But
look at that. So their top story is PBS and NPR. That's their top links. And then Bing's is...
Now look at that top result, for example. Notice it's just a .com, no description.
I understand.
And
but you're telling me that Google, with all their power, with Fox and New York Times linking to them, and people searching for them don't know...
But one thing I've learned about Google SEO... and
I'm not buying that.
Hold on. Let me finish. You got to look at both sides here.
There's no way, just because they didn't properly put a title up there, dude. That
all I know is Google
it.
does... give priority to sites that are web friendly, that are mobile friendly, that have the right tagging, that have all those things, right? It's not just based upon linking.
Right. Yeah. But if you
add that in the algorithm, who knows?
Yeah, okay. But they have other links on the top that I bet get a lot less links, like zerohedge.com is not a huge site, and that's up there too. So they have links to stuff that are obviously getting less traffic than that site right now today, especially. So
that's why I think it's an algorithm thing. That's why
I think it's on an active list that says do not surface those results. It's got to be.
What happens if
or Google is incapable of recognizing any popular trend on the internet, which seems unlikely.
All right, let me ask you one other thing. Is there a possibility that site has blocked Google from indexing it?
But all of the other ones?
Well, no, that's why it shows up on Bing. That's why it shows up on DuckDuckGo. Is it possible that they maybe put something in the robots.txt?
Well, I would tell you, so because of the motivation behind the site and the fact that they're seeking as much publicity as possible.
Axiom's saying try google.ca.
But you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So I doubt it, but I don't know.
Right.
Here's the note of it. Here's just a note.
I'm just saying there's a lot of possibilities that I think we're not fully considering.
I agree, but just note the story in context.
Google announced changes to its algorithm search last April, aiming to combat so-called fake news and conspiracy theories. In a blog post, a company executive said the technology would change its search rankings to help surface more authoritative pages.
So here's my thinking: is because what it is it's a website that is trying to counter the new narrative around Seth Rich.
Right.
It's a pushback trying to decredit Rob Wheeler, or whatever his name is. And so it's, I think, been deemed as fake news by someone at Google. Some arbiter has decided it is fake news and does not expose it on the dominant search engine, the one that has a monopoly in search. I think that's a big deal because it's essentially, it's just audio recordings of conversations. It has a motivation in its posting, but the content itself has no bias because it's just recording people's frank conversations they didn't know were being recorded. And yet they are suppressing that in the search results.
Right.
And now they're coming on more than one day. So
Axiom in the chat room saying it's the 6th link down on google.ca.
Interesting. It's a top link on other search engines. I just find that to be scary a little bit because I don't know what the topic is. I can't really think of a topic that I would want Google... that's not like child porn related or abuse related. I can't really think of the topic that I would want Google censoring. I guess what I would like is for that to be part of Safe Search. How about that? How's that for a compromise?
Right.
So if Safe Search is on, then you can protect me from porn and fake news. And if Safe Search is off, let me have the unfiltered internet. It just seems to be.
I tried searching on Alta Vista. Unfortunately.
Could you check out ask.com for me real quick? So I want to just so let's jump into Russia.
It still works.
Let's go back in time. We're going to cover some relevant information from a little bit ago that we're getting updates on, and then we're going to move forward to the sanctions and things like that. So starting with how we originally got some of the names of people involved with Trump that could be in some way dealing with folks in Russia, like Chase's buddy. Who is the
my good friend?
It's all coming together now. It's all blurring together now.
Right.
Who was the first guy that was out in the Trump administration because of the Russia stuff?
Flynn?
Yeah, I think it was General Flynn. Yeah, it was.
Flynn.
And then the next guy out
was Comey. I think Comey was fired, right?
Okay. So there's been a little bit of time in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Flynn also had the privilege of being the first guy whose name was unmasked and leaked to the press, right? Remember that?
Yes.
And so that's how Flynn's name came up.
The unmasking.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so this is a little information about the big unmasking.
This letter obtained by Fox News, the Republican chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, updates the nation's intelligence chief, DNI Dan Coates, on the status of the unmasking investigation. 3 of the nation's intelligence agencies received subpoenas in May, explicitly naming 3 top officials of the Obama administration: former CIA Director John Brennan, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, and former UN Ambassador Samantha Power.
Okay, Susan Rice, okay, I can kind of see it, but UN ambassador, an ambassador who she has massive, this is a little odd, and stay tuned for an audio clip in the overtime that might add a little more context to Brennan.
Samantha Power. In what appears to be a reference to Power, Nunes writes, one official whose position had no apparent intelligence-related function made hundreds of unmasking requests during the final year of the Obama administration. The letter continues. Obama-era officials sought the identities of Trump transition officials within intelligence reports. However, there was no meaningful explanation offered by these officials as to why they needed or how they would use this U.S. person information.
Oh, and one other little bit of interesting about this U.S. person information, some things were released that then the FBI had to go get recalled, and they had because it was illegal to be disseminated amongst certain levels of the federal government, and they had to ask people to please send back that classified information. That's NSA intelligence, and you shouldn't have those names on there. And of course, it was up to people to send it back, and you can imagine how that might lead to leaks. Now, moving forward in time, let's talk about that big meeting that Chase's good buddy,
my friend
Donald Trump Jr. had with the Russian lawyer who only wants to talk about children and is totally not connected to the Russian government, except, well, that one guy that says she is.
Person information. During public testimony, an American who has done business in Russia.
All right, so just to frame this, this isn't like super solid, but a business guy who has done business in Russia says, yeah, that lawyer, totally an agent of the government.
American who has done business in Russia claimed the lawyer at the 2016 Trump Tower meeting with Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort, among others.
Oh, Manafort. That was really the first guy out, really.
Yes, that's right.
But, okay, so these guys all get there to talk about children. These 3 really outstanding human beings who really only care about the children, and this lawyer who's represented people who have interest in the sanctions, all get together.
Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort, among others, was directly tied to Moscow.
She's worked for the FSB, the FSB being the successor organization to the KGB.
Anti-corruption campaigner Bill Browder testified Natalia Veselnitskaya was Moscow's point of contact for repealing U.S. sanctions.
Oh, now all of a sudden that meeting's making a lot more sense, isn't it?
Wait, Chris. I swear, I thought this meeting was about Russian adoptions.
Yeah. If I had just 5 more minutes, what I would have looked at was that time of Putin's announcement that they weren't going to do anything in response to the sanctions. I'd love to know where that is on the timeline compared to when this meeting took place.
Oh, yes. Yes. Wasn't that like September, October?
I don't know.
I'll see if I can find it real quick.
You got to figure, of course it was about the sanctions.
Yes.
It wouldn't be worth their time otherwise. And of course it was dirt. I bet it was.
It was around Thanksgiving, remember? Because he was inviting him over Thanksgiving, remember?
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah, good call. So the emails are all about dirt on Hillary. So they're going into this thinking, all right, they had to be thinking, we're setting up a business arrangement now. This is about setting up business. Now, how fruitful it was, who the F knows. But that whole line about the children.
Russia's point of contact for repealing U.S. sanctions imposed after the alleged murder of Browder's lawyer. Russian President Putin retaliated, blocking adoptions to American parents, reportedly a subject of conversation at the 2016 meeting.
Nobody was talking about adoption. They were talking about the repeal of sanctions so that Russian torturers and murderers could freely travel and keep their money in America.
Now I know how he feels.
Browder said the Russian lawyer hired an American opposition research firm to smear him and plant false stories in the media.
What was the name of that firm, Chase?
I don't remember, Chris.
The same firm commissioned the unverified, salacious anti-Trump dossier.
That's right, Fusion GPS. Oh, it's funny how they just keep coming up again. That's weird how that works out.
Super ding.
So in the background, there's been a back and forth that hasn't gotten a lot of attention until just in the last couple of days. And this back and forth has been about the sanctions that have been brewing in the lower levels of government. And it's a three-pronged sanction. It goes after North Korea, Iran, and is it North Korea or Syria? I can't remember. But the two that matter is it goes after Iran and, of course, the big one, Russia. Now, where it goes after Russia for is meddling in the election, which is still in the process of being proven, but let's go ahead and throw the sanctions on. And you could probably imagine how this has caused a bit of political discussion. I mean, even since the G20 summit, this has been in the works. It's been in the works for a while. It's been causing a lot of back and forth. And the thing that's been causing the biggest back and forth in it is they are baking in essentially an extremely hard path for Trump to remove these sanctions. Initially, there was no path for Trump to remove the sanctions. The White House pushed back on that. And now they have this really kind of chicken shit way where Trump can do it, but Congress has a real easy go-to mechanism to override him. So it is sort of interesting because it really positions Trump in a tough spot. If he doesn't sign this bill...
He signed it today.
Yeah, I know. Don't get ahead. Don't get ahead. If he doesn't sign the bill... if he doesn't sign the bill, then now you threw me off my game. If he doesn't sign the bill, then he looks like he's being soft on Russia.
Right.
If he does sign the bill, he's removing some powers from the executive office, which is not going to be something he's a big fan of. And while all of this is brewing, Russia is responding.
From above, it hardly looks like the kind of place to be at the center of a diplomatic row between Washington and the Kremlin. But the Russian government said today it's seizing this unassuming retreat for American diplomats and a storage facility the embassy uses.
And this is a really interesting... I don't know why this guy had to fly... This NBC guy flew all the way to Moscow for this shot.
The American country house outside Moscow is now gated shut. And over the next month and a half, Russia says it will be sending hundreds of Americans home, putting a cap on the number of Americans who can serve in this country at 455.
That is an unbelievable amount already, which is exactly the same amount they have here. But what is, I think, more interesting and telling about it is they had 1,000. They had over 1,000.
Yeah.
And this is supposedly a recreational chill spot for diplomats?
Right, yeah, this facility is a retreat. And when I saw the video of this and I saw this facility and the furniture being moved out, I was just like, this is our tax dollars at work.
Yeah.
This you and I, tax dollars, Chris, goes to this.
Yeah.
For a retreat.
This is kind of staggering because it looks like a huge campground.
Look at all the barbecues they got there, and they got the
picnic
big clubhouse
tables and big lounge chairs, and they have covered big barbecue areas. This looks like a nice campground in the Pacific Northwest. It's green, it's lush, it's so Russian, I guess. Contractors are coming in and just clearing this place out.
Does that mean I can go over there? Is this American land on Russian soil?
Can we talk about 1,000 diplomats? That smells
a lot.
That smells a little stinky to me. Like maybe some of them are spies, and that's why Russia's kicking some of them out.
To be fair, Chris, Russia's a really big country.
Yeah, that is true.
It's it's the biggest.
It is quite huge. But how much do you want to bet most of them are all in Moscow? I would be willing to bet you some. I'd be willing to bet you onion rings with that steak I owe you.
Do you think Snowden's been there?
Yeah. I wonder, huh? I would be where I'd want to go. I don't know. This whole story is really odd, and Russia had actually already warned about kicking those people out already. So I do want to get to the sanctions and talk about what you just were, you were jumping ahead there.
I know.
But first,
I jumped.
There's a moment that everybody was excited about this week when Chase's good friend,
my buddy,
Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Sarah, I love you.
Takes it to the media for their Russia coverage. For most of it, I'm like, wait a minute. Hey, wait.
What?
Did Sarah listened to literally last week's episode of Unfiltered?
She might be downloading it.
Like I said, the statement that was issued was true, and there were no inaccuracies in the statement. I think what the bigger question is, everybody wants to try to make this some story about misleading. The thing I see misleading is a year's worth of stories that have been fueling a false narrative about this Russia collusion and based on a phony scandal based on anonymous sources. And I think that is, if we're going to talk about misleading, that's the only thing misleading I see in this entire process. You guys are focused on a meeting that Don Jr. had no consequence when the Democrats actually colluded with a foreign government like Ukraine. The Democrat-linked firm Fusion GPS actually took money from the Russian government while it created the phony dossier that's been the basis for all of the Russia scandal fake news. And if you want to talk further about a relationship with Russia, look no further than the Clintons, as we've said time and time again.
Now, I like her approach on the Clinton attack because a lot of times when people go for the Clintons' ties to the Russians, they go for, well, Hillary gave them all the uranium, which is the weakest attack because she was only involved in a large decision process there. Now, she did seem to receive funds, and the Clinton Foundation received funds, and people that were working with the Clinton Foundation received funds. So it does look very odd, but she goes for a different level, which I think, if you look at how they're investigating Trump, should be talked about more.
Bill Clinton was paid $500,000 to give a speech to a Russian bank and was personally thanked by Putin for it. Hillary Clinton.
Could you imagine if Donald Trump was paid $500,000 by a Russian bank to do something in Moscow for like as a celebrity appearance?
Well, maybe he was already paid that for the Miss Universe thing.
Yeah, I'm sure he made some money, but...
Yeah.
Was paid $500,000 to give a speech to a Russian bank and was personally thanked by Putin for it. Hillary Clinton allowed 1/5 of America's uranium to reserve to be sold to a Russian firm whose investors were Clinton Foundation donors.
And see, when she goes for the part where she mentions the donors profited.
And the Clinton campaign chairman's brother lobbied against sanctions on Russia's largest bank and failed to report it.
Oh, that's also a good one.
If you guys want to talk about having relations, which you seem obsessed with doing, look no further than there. If you want to talk about somebody who's actually been tough on Russia, look at President Trump. He wants more fracking, more coal, more energy, a stronger military, a stronger defense.
I actually think that's a decent point. I mean, she's really dropping truth bombs here, but if you're Putin, you don't want a president that's doubling down on fracking. That's really what you don't want because the oil prices, it's interesting. She really just gave it to him there. And so in the background during all of this and why she's riled up, and I can kind of understand, you have to understand the context of the day. They have been hammering Trump all day, they being CNN, which is what got her fired up. They've been hammering him all day. Why hasn't he signed the bill? Why hasn't he signed the bill? Is it because of collusion? Why hasn't he signed the bill?
Yeah! All right, we often look at the president's Twitter feed as a reflection of what he cares about most. And over the last week, he's weighed in on practically everyone and everything using that favorite platform. He blasted, let's take a look.
This guy is such a klutz. Like, as soon as he has to do anything other than read the prompter, he starts to fall apart. And so many of these CNN presenters are like this. I don't understand why they insist on using this stupid touchscreen. Just have somebody in the production room change the images behind them.
Chris, they paid a lot for it.
That is exactly the reason, dude. Microsoft really sold them a package.
Platform, he blasted, let's take a look. Blasted China. Very disappointed. Foolish past leaders allow them to make hundreds of billions of dollars a year in trade, yet they do nothing for us with North Korea, just talk. Harsh position by the president. Talked about the stock market, taking the positive. You can argue whether or not he deserves as much credit as he's giving himself, but he talked about it, and he talks about it a lot. And, of course, one of his favorite targets, at least in spirit, if not in number, is going after a free media. He takes the time to do that.
I love it. I love it. I love that attacking CNN and New York Times is going after a free media, which is so solid because I will say one thing about the Trump administration. They have brought, to not always to good, or not always for the best, but they have brought more media into the White House press briefings, and they've brought just like Joe Blow radio hosts in podunk districts over Skype.
However, to be fair, to be perfectly fair, how many meetings or how many press conferences have we seen have been audio only, or they've had just brief gaggles more than other previous administrations as well?
I mean, I'm not saying they're flawless. I'm just saying in terms of like attacking the free press, those actions have also taken place.
But the people that they bring in on those Skypes are tend to be more friendlier to the White House.
Tend to, but not always, man. I've definitely seen a few that are gotcha questions.
There are things I could tell you, but I can't say it on the air.
No, I know that. I know that there's, of course, they're going to be selective, especially ones that they. But yeah, I find that one does not equate to the other. Right. Saying that CNN sucks isn't attacking the free news. Or the free press, whatever you said.
Right. I mean, the thing is that I've obviously learned about this administration and the previous ones. Oh yeah, of course they are.
Cuomo is, I'm saying.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, of course he is. And the problem is the Trump doesn't like anything that's against
negative.
Him, period.
Of course, yeah.
Even if it's factual.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Right. And I think I long for a day. I really long for a day when an administration, any administration, I don't care, Republican or Democrat, doesn't try to blame the previous one, and it's a continued cycle.
Oh yeah,
let's own it.
It's the excuse that they get for like the first 2 years.
A free media. He takes the time to do that. So why are we pointing out what he talks about? To emphasize what he's not talking about.
Oh.
The Russians cut the American diplomatic staff by a crippling 755.
Crippling.
It's not crippling.
And also, that was supposedly a recreational area too.
Well,
so
yeah, and the retreat. Don't forget the retreat.
Yeah, and the storage.
And the storage closet. Whatever.
People. Why? Retaliation, of course, for what's going on with them. What else is going on? Russia is back in Georgia. The last time they did this in 2008, hundreds of people died. Not a word about this or those Americans getting kicked out of Russia by the President of the United States on his favorite medium.
This is a really interesting technique. So they instead of attacking him for what he is saying, they're now attacking him for what he isn't saying. And if you think about it, you could do that for infinite. I mean, you could really choose any topic du jour, and
I think that's okay. And the only reason why that's okay to me is because he is the tweeting president, right? And so I think it does matter what he doesn't talk about on Twitter, just because he talks about everything else on Twitter.
Yeah,
I think it's fair.
Suppose.
I think it's.
Fair.
I
guess I look at it in this context. Every week, there's probably 6 or 7 really important stories. 6 or 7 really important stories that we don't include in the show for time, and it's not commentary on those stories, though.
No, that's true. But then again, we're not like I don't know, trying to just find favorable stories for us. We try to find stuff on both sides. One thing you see about Trump is he'll go out there and tweet about something that you and I look at it, you're like, what the hell are you doing, man?
What if he's just trying to fire up his Twitter base? What if he just loves getting likes and retweets? What if he literally is such a narcissist that the President of the United States gets a Woody when he gets 10x amount of retweets, or he gets 10,000 likes, or whatever his numbers are? What if it's really? Anyways, let's move on.
Why? Well, what else are they doing? 100,000 troops on the border with NATO. Saber rattling, obviously.
Yeah, I like that it's saber. I wonder how that NATO border got there. How did
what gesture was he just doing?
I don't know. It looked a little dirty because
did it look good.
He's jerking his dick, but he's talking about saber rattling, which would be up a little higher. And it's reverse provocateur, right? So NATO encroaches on the border, makes it closer to an area, and then all of a sudden it's their response is the hostility, not the moving of the border.
On the border with NATO, saber rattling, obviously. Again, not a word from the president. Oh. And it raises these questions. Why? Why hasn't he signed the sanctions bill that we're told that he will, against the advice of his own party, telling him to sign it now? And then there was this sound from the vice president.
In a further sign of our commitment, very soon, President Trump will sign legislation to strengthen and codify the United States sanctions.
You notice that the color balance is off on their touchscreen? So here's Pence now, and here's Pence before they look at that. But Cuomo's fine. But it makes them look demon. Makes them look like demons. That's interesting. So they harp on Trump, and they harp on Trump. They spend the morning show harping on Trump about not being tough on the Russians. Why won't he sign the damn bill?
We are just getting word that President Trump has signed the sanctions bill on Russia. That is the bill overwhelmingly passed by the House of Representatives and also the Senate. We just got word that the president has now signed this sanctions bill. You're with us?
I would encourage the audience to look at the origins of that sanction bill and see who are the primary writers of it, and ask yourself if you are Komskis with that.
Yes.
But I want to shift gears to Chase's buddy, Mr.
My
Nunes.
good friend.
The real Nunes.
I wouldn't call him my
What is his Twitter handle? What is his Twitter handle?
At Devin Nunes.
Devin Nunes. Yeah. So the Russia investigation often comes across looking like they're playing politics. And it drives me crazy because it makes the whole thing look like a chicken shit sideshow. And that definitely got worse this week. So last week, I was saying, I think that they should, if they're going to investigate Trump's business ties and family ties, that they should also investigate all of the ties to Fusion GPS, how that got financed, both with the Jeb campaign, with Hillary's campaign, how McCain got it, how far that dossier was used to authorize NSA surveillance. All of that should be investigated fully because there was leaks that came from that need to be identified, especially before...
Full investigation, both sides. Fully
especially
agree with you.
with Section 702 near renewal.
Yes.
Which was the tool that was used to do this also. I've been advocating that if they're going to do it, they have to do a full spectrum investigation. We had that exact discussion last week.
I
Do you remember?
I do.
So this week, that's what was sort of brought up, and the Democrats immediately shut the whole thing down.
You have senators not willing to do the jobs they were elected to do.
And of course, then you got jackasses like him that are going to grandstand and make a whole political sideshow out of it.
Blasted by Republicans, a procedural move by Democrats abruptly shut down the Senate Russia panel after 2 hours, but not before lawmakers put former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort's Ukraine Work for Pro-Moscow group under scrutiny.
Wasn't this the kind of activity on behalf of a foreign government that FARA registration is meant to disclose?
We had previously advised Mr. Manafort we believed he had an obligation to register, and he is registered.
That is the Deputy Assistant Attorney General, I believe.
Former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn, who also retroactively filed paperwork under FARA.
Hey, we were just talking about him.
The Foreign Agent Registration Act was criticized for promoting a foreign government while not disclosing his business relationship.
I didn't know at the time that he was receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from a group that was representing Turkey.
Now, here's the issue. So this avenue, as soon as they start going down this avenue, what the Republicans came back with was, well, Sidney Blumenthal was sending information to Hillary, and he wasn't registered as a foreign agent either.
That's the kind of thing we want to get a hold of.
Another Republican said the obsession with the Trump team's Russia contacts was overblown, and the Democrats should not get a pass.
If we're going to get to the bottom of this, we need to investigate the whole story. It includes looking at serious allegations of foreign influence over the Clinton campaign.
Reading from a prepared statement, the committee chairman highlighted a perceived double standard, citing then Secretary of State Clinton and Sidney Blumenthal, her close confidant.
If the Justice Department thought Mr. Blumenthal's activities on behalf of foreign interests did not require registration, it should simply say so.
And Grassley drew connections.
Which has actually been strange. It's unclear why the State Department is refusing to answer. It's a legal investigation. They've requested why that Sidney Blumenthal didn't have to be registered.
Right.
And the State Department is just dragging their feet and stonewalling it. It seems to be like, I don't know if there's like old Clinton people in there or what, but they're just not giving the answer.
It should simply say so.
And Grassley drew connections between the Russian lawyer who spearheaded the 2016 Trump Tower meeting with Manafort and Donald Trump Jr. and Fusion GPS, the U.S. opposition research firm behind the unverified anti-Trump dossier.
And I think we should. I think we legitimately should. I know it would serve the Republican interests to a degree.
Do we not know that the special, what's his name? Special security, the special investigation, that they aren't doing this?
This, though, this is the whole cockamamie thing about it. That's a whole parallel investigation.
Right.
So this is they're doing their own.
So this is a Senate thing.
Yeah, they're doing their own thing.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Your tax dollars don't work.
I would imagine Mueller's is...
Oh, Mueller. That's what I was trying to say.
Mueller.
Knowing exactly who is acting on behalf of the Russian government is vital.
And the testimony of a key witness and critic of Russian corruption has been put off until tomorrow. And based on his prepared remarks, Bill Browder will connect the dots between Fusion GPS, the Russian lawyer at the 2016 Trump Tower meeting, and smear campaigns by Moscow. Brett.
I haven't, boy, geez, if that's true, if anybody has a clip on that, if that's true that Fusion GPS was working on behalf of quote unquote Moscow, as they say, that would be devastating. Okay, so let's now go to the most current sort of quote-unquote Russia story that we have, and that's this whole back and forth that comes out. I mean, the leaks that we get now, really grade A stuff. Now we know somehow somebody, I think because it happened while they were on Air Force One, has leaked that Trump advised Junior on how to craft his statement. Am I right that it was on it? This clip might say.
Well, the Washington Post reports President Trump advised his son, Donald Jr., on the first statement Jr. made about his meeting with a Russian lawyer back in June of 2016. You can see the Post's headline here. Trump urging his son to release a statement saying the focus of the meeting was the adoption.
That's not what you're saying the headline is.
Well, hold on. We're going to play.
No, I know, but he's saying, well, the headline states he's saying different words than what's on the screen.
Oh, I see. So the headline reads, Trump dictated son's misleading statement on meeting with Russian lawyer.
Now listen what he said. Back up just a little bit.
Urging his son to release a statement saying the focus of the meeting was the adoption of Russian children, not to get damaging information about Hillary Clinton.
So he makes it sound like he's reading the headline, but instead of what he did is he did a super summary of the article.
Right.
Joining us now to
Okay, so let's switch because they gave the real good early bullet points. Washington Post,
right,
and the blame it on the children. So that's sort of the highlights to take from that clip.
Right.
Then this one's more current.
The White House is pushing back against reports that President Trump dictated a misleading statement from his son.
We've had conflicting reports. So first it was, no, he didn't do anything.
Well, his lawyer said that he wasn't involved with it at all.
Then it's, well, of course he helped out like any father would.
The White House press secretary says Mr. Trump was only trying to help his son, Donald Jr., to create that statement. It was about his conversation with a criminal-connected lawyer during the campaign.
Just help him.
But did tell him say it was about Russian adoptions?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of shit, I'm sorry to drop an S-bomb, but this is the kind of shit that really bothers me. Because
you know what really grinds my gears?
If you have nothing to hide, right, like that, this is a propaganda piece that the fake media is just trying to connect dots that aren't there. This was a innocent meeting, no big deal.
And then you lie.
What the fuck are we supposed to think about?
I know that here's the worst part, too, is then it starts a chain of events where everyone has to say that, everyone has to go along with that story, or else it exposes the whole thing.
It boggles the logic in my head.
The things that he does choose to lie about do seem to always get me like, why is that the moment? Just don't even say anything.
Just shut up.
Lawyer during the campaign. The president's attorney has denied the involvement, which his spokesman confirmed yesterday. Major Garrett is at the White House. Major, good morning.
Major.
Good morning. President Trump's lawyers say this latest discrepancy is legally meaningless.
That's my favorite part of it.
This lie.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Lie doesn't mean anything.
Okay, so we screwed this one up. We totally blew it.
It's a big nothing burger.
It doesn't matter. It totally is cool.
Thanks,
at what difference does it make at this point?
Lawyers say this latest discrepancy is legally meaningless, perhaps, but all involved concede it is a political problem that will serve to deepen the Russia-related suspicions this White House has tried so energetically
I agree with that. It does.
to erase.
It totally does.
Remember how we elected a family? Now we have a royal family in that house.
He certainly didn't dictate. But,
White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders acknowledged President Trump played a role in framing the July 8th statement in which his son, Donald Trump Jr., inaccurately described a June 2016 meeting with a Russian lawyer.
The statement that Don Jr. issued is true. There's no inaccuracy in the statement.
I guess if they can still claim that a children adoption, which could be, it is something the U.S. is legitimately kind of upset about, and if they could leverage that. I mean, if they could somehow claim that children adoption still came up, then it would be a little more believable. But the defense is well, it's a true statement. It was true. Well, what? Can you be a little more specific?
There's no inaccuracy in the statement. The president weighed in as any father would based on the limited information that he had.
The president's attorney, Jay Sekulow, had no comment on that, but the White House admission contradicted his earlier claims that Mr. Trump was not involved.
This was Donald Trump Jr. and his lawyers put together a statement
July 12th.
serving the interests of their client. So I understand what they did, and it was not the president was not involved in that.
Trump Jr.'s statement said the meeting with the Russians, quote, primarily discussed a program about the adoption of Russian children.
As you can see from the emails, the pretext of the meeting was, hey, we have information, and there was, some small talks. I don't even remember what it was. It just was sort of nonsensical.
He didn't want to necessarily lie right there. You see how
he had to make it really kind of gray.
Inane and garbled.
But Trump Jr.'s email showed the meeting occurred after politically damaging information on Hillary Clinton was offered. South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham said misleading statements only cause investigators to look further.
So if you want these investigations to come to an end, the last thing you need to do is reinforce the narrative if you're not candid and honest about what happened.
Man, when Lindsey Graham is making sense, you know that's some basic bitch stuff, dude. That's basic bitch right there.
President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who also was at the meeting with the Russian lawyer, denied collusion with the Russians, saying the campaign was too disorganized. He joked with congressional interns Monday, saying, "We barely could collude with our field offices in different states."
I like that they're just doubling down on the we're incompetent argument that we discussed a couple of weeks ago.
We just suck.
I mean, even if we tried to take a little arrangement with the Russians,
couldn't do it.
We sucked so bad that we couldn't execute on it. Anyways, we got to go run this place now. Same exact people.
The president's legal team, which has had its fair share of turnover, is still trying to build a cohesive approach with communication about Mr. Trump and White House activities.
Anyways, that's a very charitable. Wow, Major's really charitable there with that, much more than normal. So now that we've talked about all of this and Russia hacking and interference with the election, it brings us to the topic of the day. Cleanse your palate for a moment, everybody. We're going to talk about Seth Rich, which has now become a war ground, absolute war ground. And there's so many different ways to sum this story up. It's very complicated, but we'll start with the Morning Joes.
A lawsuit filed in federal court claims a Fox News report about a slain DNC staffer, Seth Rich, was reviewed prior to publication by President Trump.
All right, so we're going to stop here. So that's the lawsuit is really interesting. The lawsuit is being brought by the gentleman that was the source.
And was altered at the White House's request. The lawsuit filed by private investigator Rod Wheeler, who was initially hired on behalf of the Rich family.
So he was a private investigator that was hired on behalf of the Rich family. Or by the Rich family. He worked for them, supposedly. And in this position, he claimed initially to have information from the FBI about Seth Rich's computer that showed that he communicated with WikiLeaks. He then went to a Fox News reporter for a local Fox 5 affiliate. Some people have insinuated that he was trying to engage in a relationship with her, and he told her that he had an exclusive for her, in which he said they have emails that show he was the source for WikiLeaks. Fox 5 sent that up the chain to Fox. They cited Rod Wheeler. He almost immediately changed his story. Also, interestingly, that gal declined his date offer. Sorry, dude. Sorry. It's just weird that there's a love interest triangle in here, which I find fascinating. And then Rod Wheeler later on has now filed this lawsuit against Fox, alleging that it wasn't a direct quote, that it was, in fact, a misrepresentation of his quote.
Who was initially hired on behalf of the Rich family, says his quotes in a May 16th FoxNews.com story were fabricated by Fox News reporter Malia Zimmerman.
That's the gal that said no.
The story was retracted by Fox a week after it was published for not meeting its standards. The quotes in question implied that Rich was killed for leaking internal DNC emails to WikiLeaks. Wheeler claims he complained to Ed Patowski, a Trump supporter, who hired him to probe Rich's death. Wheeler says he was told, quote, "That is the way the president wanted the article." The suit also alleges the Rich article was an attempt to divert attention away from the ongoing Russian investigation. According to the suit, Zimmerman, Patowski, and Fox.
Patowski is sort of the go-between between the White House and what's that? I mean, so many names here. What's the other guy's name? Jeez, you got Rod.
An attempt to divert attention away from the ongoing Russian investigation. According to the suit, Zimmerman, Batowski, and Fox had created fake news.
So Zimmerman is the gal that is a local Fox 5 reporter that he was supposedly hitting on. Batowski is the gentleman who, interestingly, hired him as the private investigator for the family, and is the go-between between Spicy Sean and Rod. And Rod Wheeler is the guy that gave the quote that said he saw FBI documents and said that Seth Rich was the source. So Batowski was working with Spicy Sean to work this story up the chain to Fox.
To advance President Trump's agenda. Batowski did not respond to a call for comment. Fox News said in a statement, the accusation that FoxNews.com published Malia Zimmerman's story to help detract from coverage of the Russia collusion issue is completely erroneous. The retraction of this story is still being investigated internally, and we have no evidence that Rod Wheeler was misquoted by Zimmerman.
So that's the dispute point. We can come back to that here in a second. I want to get more interesting information here because, like all really good, juicy stories now, we have leaks. We got leaks of texts. We got leaks of voicemails. Oh. This is Batowski, Ed Batowski, the guy that originally hired Rod to be the investigator, the guy that juiced this up the chain so it would go out the big fox horns like Hannity.
A couple minutes ago, I got a note that we have the full attention of the White House on this.
Batowski has now claimed that that was a joke.
And
that doesn't sound like a joke.
Tomorrow, let's close this deal.
Now, there is a possibility.
Ooh, I thought you said there was no bacon, but I'm getting a little hungry.
Hours later, this text from Ed Batowski to Wheeler. Not to add any more pressure, but the president just read the article.
Oh, that's big. Now, keep listening because I want you to keep the whole context of this text in here for this bacon because it's pretty important.
Later, this text from Ed Batowski to Wheeler. Not to add any more pressure, but the president just read the article. He wants the article out immediately. And according to the law...
Oh, and then it says, but don't feel the pressure. So here's the bacon. According to Batowski, and he's fairly direct about this, he says the reason why Rod Wheeler got involved in the first place is because he's been trying to get Batowski to get him a job in the White House. Can you guess which job he was trying to get Batowski to put him in line for?
Communications director?
Well, specifically Spicy's job.
That's
what
I'm saying.
Yeah,
in the communications.
Would be in front of the camera. He wanted to
the
be
press secretary.
He wanted to be the press secretary.
Oh wow!
Because he's got on air. He's been on Fox. He's got on air talents, and he thought he was going to be a great fit. And so this was a. It looks like what Wheeler may have done was over. I suspect this is my bacon. He may have overextended himself in trying to impress Donald Trump. I feel like maybe he overextended. We'll get to this, but it looks like he was just trying to really impress the White House for a bit, and he even got a meeting with Spicy Sean through Batowski. This is all this, and then so Batowski has claimed that when he said the president just read the article, that he says joking, but he says he was lying, that he was manipulating Wheeler, so that way he thought he had good chances with Trump to get what he wanted out. I don't know if that's true or not. It sounds like Trump, in my reading of this, Trump had hands-on with this article. Hands-on, which, if you think about that, that means the President of the United States had hands-on with an article that they wanted published on FoxNews.com, which would later then go to air. That means Fox News was directly publishing news that the President was involved in crafting, which makes them worse than state propaganda because they're not getting paid by the state. They're just doing it. At least RT wears their flag on their shoulder. This is awful. This is Fox News exposed right here.
Not to add any more pressure, but the president just read the article. He wants the article out immediately. And according to the lawsuit, Ed Batowski sent an email to Fox News producers and anchors encouraging them to push the narrative that Russia wasn't behind the hack.
And so that brings us to the immediate response. So that phrase we were trying to Google earlier,
Yeah.
that's part of this effort. Patowski and others are trying to put out what they feel like is the real version of the narrative. And one of the ways they've done that is by leaking audio of Pulitzer Prize winning journalist.
Pulitzer Prize. Yeah.
That's a big mouthful.
Good
Seymour
luck.
Hersh, or Cy Hersh. I think you guys could probably just Google him. We don't really need to go into it. But one of the ways they're trying to respond to this is by leaking some of his audio.
About the kid, and I'll tell you what I know. What I know comes off an FBI report.
So what I know comes off an FBI report. I'm going to play a couple. This clip here is, there's no video. It's 6 minutes and 47 seconds long. We're not going to play all of it. I just got a couple of bits. This is Hersh, Seymour Hersh, the journalist, discussing with supposedly Rod Wheeler about what he knows about the Seth Rich investigation based on a source of his that is active in the FBI. And they start with how they found out that Seth might be involved with WikiLeaks. And that was by discovering his laptop. This is why the FBI ended up with his laptop.
And here's what nobody knows, what I'm telling you. Now, maybe you know something about it. When you have a death like that, DC cops, if you're dead, you generally don't just go. You have to find out what's going on. You have to get to the kid's apartment and see what you can find. If he's dead, you don't need a warrant, but most cops get a warrant because they don't know if the guy has a roommate. You need a warrant, so they get a warrant. I'm just telling you, there is such a thing. They go in the house and they can't do much with his computer, its password. The cops don't know much about it. So the D.C. cops, they have a cyber unit in D.C., and they're more sophisticated. They come and look at it. The idea is maybe he's had a series of exchanges with somebody who says, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker, over a girl. So
the D.C. cops are trying to look at his laptop to see if maybe they could find motivation for a murder, since it looks a little suspicious as a robbery gone wrong. So they can't get into the computer.
They can't get in. The cyber guys do a little better, but they can't make sense of it. So they call the FBI cyber unit. The DC unit, the Washington field office.
So they got their local Washington field office there with their hotshot cyber unit. They're right there for the FBI.
The hot shit unit. The guy running the Washington field office, he's like a 3-star at an army base. He's already looking for 4. You know what I mean? He's going to go with a top job. There's a cyber unit there.
So they get the FBI cyber unit in D.C. They end up with their hands on, according to Seymour Hersh, obviously, on Seth Rich's laptop. Hersh says that later on, his source reveals that the report about the laptop shows that there was evidence of contact with WikiLeaks.
The feds get through, and here's what they find. This is according to the FBI report. What they find is he makes contact. First of all, you have to know some basic facts. One of the basic facts is there's no DNC or Podesta email that exists beyond May 22nd, May 21st, 22nd. It's the last email from either one of those groups. And so what the report says that sometime in late spring, we're talking about June, summer's in June 21st, late spring would be after, I presume, I don't know, I just say it says late spring, early summer. He makes contact with WikiLeaks.
He, being Seth Rich, makes contact with WikiLeaks. And now here's where it gets interesting, Chase, because so far it's like, okay, this seems kind of plausible. This next clip doesn't paint Seth in the best light. And that's where it's like, I hadn't even thought about this. But Hersh says that the FBI report.
I was going to say something before you played the next clip, and that is this audio is really, really good. I mean,
yeah, it's interesting, huh? It was recorded on somebody's phone, so I broke it down into MP3s because it was just a shot of the ceiling.
Yeah.
So the FBI report says that Seth initiated contact with WikiLeaks and then provided them with samples of his material. And then he did something I had never considered.
They found what he had done. He had submitted a series of documents, of emails, some juicy emails from the DNC. And, by the way, all this shit about the DNC, whether hacked or wasn't hacked, but whatever happened, the Democrats themselves wrote this shit. You know what I mean?
That's something we do lose sight of. And it was fun. I was bringing Hadia, my fiance, up to date on where the story's at. And she doesn't follow this part of the news very much. And she's like, well, can I ask you a question? And she's like, so what are people saying about the content of the email? And I said, nobody talks about the content of the email. She's like, well, it seems like people would be talking about the content of the email. No, we don't talk about the content of the email. So it's funny that Hirsch kind of makes that.
The Democrats themselves wrote this shit. You know what I mean? All I know is that he offered a sample, an extensive sample, I'm sure dozens of emails, and said, I want money.
Seth Rich asked for money from WikiLeaks. So if you catch that there at the end, he says he offered them samples of emails.
And said, I want money.
And then said, I would like some money. Which, if you think about it, maybe that's not as greedy as it sounds. If you have some really salacious stuff, you're going to need some fuck-off money. And WikiLeaks has often offered rewards for various things. So it might not be unreasonable to say, hey, if I give you guys this, can you give me something so I can get the hell out of town? That could be why he asked for cash. But there was no word on if he ever got money. There doesn't seem to be an indication in the FBI report, according to Hirsch. But eventually WikiLeaks did get access to a Dropbox that Seth set up, as well as a bit of, I guess, something about a comment of some kind of dead man switch.
That later, WikiLeaks did get the password. He had a Dropbox, a protected Dropbox, which isn't hard to do. I mean, you don't have to be a wizard, IT wizard. He was certainly, he's not a dumb kid. They got access to the Dropbox. He also, and this is also in the FBI report, he also let people know with whom he was dealing. And I don't know how he dealt. I'll tell you about WikiLeaks in a second. I don't know how he dealt with the WikiLeaks and the mechanism. But
he's saying, I don't know how he dealt with WikiLeaks and the mechanism to, do money and transactions and what technology was used.
So the word was passed, according to the FBI report. I also shared this box with a couple of friends. So if anything happens to me, it's not going to solve your problem.
So if anything happens to me, it's not going to solve your problem. Hirsch doesn't believe that Seth was murdered. I have the entire unedited audio in the supporter sync, and then I have more audio that we'll play that's of a different topic, and he talks about his source for that report in the overtime. But at the beginning of the clip, he says that I don't really think Seth was murdered. It's like, this is my guess. This is not based on any information I've gotten. But if you are going to assassinate a guy, you shoot him in the head. You don't have some sort of exchange with him and then shoot him in the back. You make sure he's dead and you shoot him in the head.
Right.
So he's like, in Hirsch's experience, he says, it doesn't seem like a hit job to me. That aside, I still think he's the source of the WikiLeaks.
So let me ask you this. At the end of the day, we now have a lawsuit right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
which is really riding on the credibility of Rod Wheeler.
Right. And if this goes to trial, first, let me ask you, does it go to trial? Does it even get that far?
No way. Red Book on that says no way.
Right.
No way.
So who drops that out? Who's settling? Is Fox settling?
Rod Wheeler, absolutely. Rod Wheeler is
okay.
So this is, of course, there's a disinformation campaign out there, but if you parse it, Rod Wheeler is actively looking for work. That's why he wanted Spicy's job.
Right.
Rod Wheeler is looking for cash. It seems like a settlement would be a great way to get a cash infusion while you re-gear.
So if they settle, how does that handle with Fox? I mean,
I don't know. Of course, they'll release a statement,
right,
and then we'll shine everything. This is, to me, it still exposes the involvement. And let us not trick ourselves to think that MSNBC hasn't worked,
CNN or
CNN
anybody
with the
else.
Clinton campaign.
Totally,
But this just really exposes Fox News out there, just working directly with the White House on a story that was.
It'd be interesting to see what Sean Hannity says about it.
And it seems, So let's talk about Debbie a little bit. Debbie does
DWS.
a little more data. And we've talked last week about her recent performance and the arrest of her IT guy. There's so many interesting nuggets of information.
Please subpoena her. Please.
There's so much. Yeah, so that's where the ball is rolling right now.
A lot of investigations in Washington right now, and now a member of the U.S. House says it's time to start another one, this one of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former DNC chair from Florida. Her aide was recently arrested while trying to flee the country. He's now being charged. His name is Imran Awan. He's facing a federal bank fraud charge. He's been suspected of other wrongdoing for months. He was banned from the House computer network as a security risk. Red flags, to put it mildly, and yet Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz kept him on her payroll for reasons we can only speculate about. The whole thing does seem a little weird. Congressman Ron DeSantis of Florida agrees. He said it stinks enough to warrant an investigation of Wasserman Schultz herself. Congressman DeSantis joins us tonight. So, Congressman, I mean, for a sitting member of Congress to call for investigation of another sitting member who's in his state delegation seems to be probably a pretty high bar. Why are you doing this?
Well, Tucker, it's all about protecting the integrity of the House of Representatives.
This is an interesting development, to be sure, because there's so many things going on. There's so many moving pieces to this Russia stuff and these IT investigators and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. You know, Hirsch's audio doesn't prove that Seth Rich was the source. Hirsch's audio proves that a well-respected journalist who has a really reliable source believes that he was involved with WikiLeaks. Now, if that's true or not, we don't know. A lot of people on the internet are making the claim that this proves it. This is just another interesting data point. Seth Rich may have no involvement with the DNC leaks. Vladimir Putin may have personally written the Python script that phished John Podesta's emails. Vladimir Putin may have very well written the port-knocking script that figured out the right combo to SSH in to the DNC server with the root password of root. Who knows? We don't really know what happened. It also could have been that this Awaki guy, this IT guy, for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, has been trading and selling dirt based on the breaches that they've been stealing from different representatives over the years and double charging them for equipment and making tons of money and giving money to God knows who. Perhaps they're the ones that leaked the information and sold it to WikiLeaks for a nice price.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows. But I'll tell you, the thing that makes the most sense is a guy named Seth Rich, who was a Bernie supporters fan. You can see it on his Twitter feed. You can see it on his Reddit profile, and a panda lover, got his hands, as he would likely do since he was a data specialist and would have access to data, got his hands on data and made a transaction with WikiLeaks, and then, coincidentally or not, wound up dead days later. Who knows? But that does line up pretty squarely, because I will tell you, from someone who has worked in these kinds of fields before, this was a huge issue in banking. In fact, I have many stories on how the bank tried to prevent this, and this was a huge issue when I did penetration testing and security audits. People, not only would I do penetration testing, but people would have us come in for multiple days, a team of us, and we would come in and we would audit their security practices, how they do everything, and write up these big reports, and of course they become our clients for ages, and it was just wonderful.
Yep.
All of this tells you, all of this training has told me, and all of this in reality tells you that these leaks are almost always from an insider. Because internal security is always the weakest, and human beings are human beings. And it is always easy to find a loophole, to find something left open. You give extra access to the Seth Rich guy because he's doing a bunch of data collection, and all of a sudden he winds up with a big treasure trove of information, and he realizes that they're fucking his man, Bernie Sanders. And pretty soon he starts working to expose that. That's a real possibility. We may never know. Yeah. But it's amazing. In some sense, how old is this? This story is over a year old now, because his birthday has passed. Has gone and passed a while ago. We've been talking about this for a really long time.
We've been following for a while.
And it's still getting weird.
Yeah.
Still getting weird. Okay, just so before we get to the high note, just a couple of things, and we got a sack. But I know it feels like we've gone through a million things. You know what we haven't even talked about yet? We haven't even talked about Priebus or
I know.
Mooch. Isn't that amazing? Can you believe it?
If you bought, I stole this joke from.
Can you believe we are this far into the show and we still haven't even gotten to this? It's incredible how much is going on.
Because you look at the top priority of importance, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, we're going to talk about the set 3. Oh crap! Oh, yeah. It's like it keeps knocking it down.
This is why we got to do twice a week, guys. Patreon.com/Unfilter. We slid back a little bit because you know what happens at when the month changes over is the cards that don't clear get removed.
Well, there's like a grace period, but it definitely happens.
We slid back. Slid back. It's a shame, but we still have 3 new. We'll get to that in the overtime. Anyways, let's talk about just a quick recap. Let's talk about Sessions, who seems to have apparently given a gift to Donald Trump and is now back in Trump's good graces.
You've seen the president's criticism of you. Do you think it's fair?
This is Cucker to Sessions.
Well, it's kind of hurtful, but the President of the United States...
It's hurtful, he says.
That's hurtful.
...is a strong leader. He is determined to move this country in the direction he believes it needs to go to make us great again.
So he's still saying all the talking
and he's
points.
a nice puppy. He is loyal to the end.
He's a good
man.
boy.
He's a good boy.
Priebus, on the other hand, it's
hey, it's Brightwhy.
I know the best people. I know the best managers. I know the best deal makers. I know people that will make us so strong. I know guys that are so good. I know the good ones, the bad ones, the overrated ones. I know the best people. We've got the best people. I have the best people. So we're going to get the best people.
that has been a bit of an issue, this best people thing. It's been a bit of an issue. Priebus, this is really weird what happened with him, but he was first on the chopping block since last episode.
You say you resigned yesterday. Tell us why. Why did you make that important decision to resign?
Well, it wasn't. It was something that I've always talked to the president about.
Oh my God, I love it. I love it when they start with that. I've always talked about quitting to my boss. That's always...
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what I do all the time.
And I've always said to him, and he always agreed with me, anytime either one of us think that we need to make a change or move in a different direction, let's just talk about it. And
that's so much horseshit. He was forced in. He was like the establishment coming in to rein him in. He came in because he was connected with the Republican establishment. That's what got him in there. But it's interesting. So while Priebus was in transition and Mooch was still in, a prankster got the best of them.
Now over to Chris.
All right, so now we have an exclusive that was first reported by Jake Tapper last night. Stunning proof that cybersecurity is not just an issue in your house, but the White House.
Every time I want to punch that guy in the face. Every time he's on, every time he always says stupid shit. This is really interesting because not so much that they fell for it, but I believe what it reveals about some of the reasons perhaps why Priebus is out.
Several White House officials got punked. A prankster posed as administration players with stunning success. Pretending to be Jared Kushner, the prankster wrote Homeland Security advisor Tom Bursert, quote, "We're arranging a bit of a soiree towards the end of August. It would be great if you could make it. I promise food of at least comparable, misspelled, quality to that which we ate in Iraq." Without thinking twice about it, Bursert wrote back, "Thanks, Jared. With a promise like that, I can't refuse. Also, if you ever need it, my personal email is," and then he gave it.
So that's the Homeland Security advisor right there.
Oh, boy.
That's the Homeland Security advisor.
He gave Jared. Of course, it wasn't Jared. And it didn't end there. The trick took a darker turn when the...
Why would he be giving his personal email address? If you ever need my personal email address, you know, the one that isn't being recorded and documented in their first email exchange.
Right. Yeah. If you want to get this off the grid, out of the Freedom of Information
That
Act
shows you
request.
exactly how these guys operate.
Yep.
Darker turn when the prankster pretended to be Reince Priebus and wrote to Anthony Scaramucci.
So the new Mooch, the new press guy.
He wrote, quote, "I had promised myself I would leave my hands mud-free, but after reading your tweet today, which stated how soon we will learn who in the media, who has class and who hasn't, has pushed me to this, whatever."
He can't even read a tweet. This guy, and I'm not the best
Well, not a tweet,
pronunciator,
but-
and yeah, okay, whatever, you're right, an email. But this guy, this is so frustrating that he can't even do this.
Who has class and who hasn't, has pushed me to this, whatever. It doesn't matter because it was fake. Scaramucci fell for it, writing, "You know what you did. We all do, even today, but rest assured we were prepared. A man would apologize."
So Anthony Scaramucci's response, when he got an email from who he thought was Reince Priebus, he says, "You know what you did. We all do."
Oof.
Now, what's the thing that they're the most worked up about these days? Leaks. Even today, which to me thinks like so. One of the things I noticed about Priebus leaving is that Trump didn't shit all over him. Trump said, "Thanks for his hard work. We're proud of him. See ya," or something like that. It was in terms of firings, it was the nicest Trump's ever been towards somebody.
Right.
And to me, that meant there was some sort of, call it what you will, quote-unquote, gentleman's agreement that must have taken place. All right, you know what? You're going to go easy, and we won't reveal the fact that you're a leaker or something like that. Like, there must have been some kind of, because this it's weird. And so then it's like, but as soon as Priebus comes back in and tries to cash in on any remaining goodwill, Scaramucci immediately says, "You know what you did." We all do, even today. Rest assured, we were prepared. A man, which is great, would apologize.
And the exchange went on. It turns out the only Trump who did not fall for the trick was Eric Trump, writing back to an email from his brother, Don Jr. I have sent this to law enforcement who will handle from here.
Yeah, I agree with Rika in the chat room, too. It also sort of suggests that the mooch would have future blackmail on him.
Ah.
Isn't it? So next thing you know, this really hit everybody by surprise. I mean, this next one, everybody was shocked.
We hit the floor.
It hit everybody in waves.
Good day, everyone. We're breaking in with news of another shakeup for the Trump administration.
They didn't even have the lights up. Did you see that?
Yeah, they're like, well, actually, I think it looks like someone hit the button.
Yeah, like so it comes in.
Breaking in with news of another shakeup for the Trump administration. White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci is now out of that position.
What?
Just over a week into the job.
Yeah, like 10 days, right?
And actually, officially, he never took the job because he wasn't going to be on the payroll until August 15th.
You know, in that 10 days, you know that I believe his wife had a baby and left him.
And divorced him, yeah.
And he was hired and fired.
Yeah.
And in that time, Priebus was out and Spicy. Wow.
This, of course, follows the resignation of White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus on Friday. Scaramucci caused a big stir last week with a profanity-laced attack on both Priebus and Chief White House strategist Steve Bannon. Today, Priebus' successor, General John Kelly, was sworn in as his replacement. Let's get.
No, well, that's not true at all. No, John Kelly's not doing that job. John Kelly is the chief of staff. That is a huge screw up.
Yep.
That was huge.
Well, you know, it's special report. They're going quick to the air.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So of course, once Mooch is out, not as nice as they were about Rance.
Was it a chain of command issue because Scaramucci said that he had a direct line of communication to the president? There's been some speculation that General Kelly may try to tighten up the number of inputs that the president has.
This was my first theory, was that Kelly comes in, General Kelly comes in, and they're going to call him the general, so just get used to it. He comes in, and he says, Mr. Trump, the only way I'm taking this job, because
let me do the job.
I got to be the only channel of communication. That means everybody. And that new guy you just hired, that new son of a bitch.
He's got to go.
He's got to go through me or he's got to go. And Mooch comes in and he says, of course, he's never worked at any kind of job like this before. He's a Wall Street guy. He comes in and he goes, no way. The only way this is going to work, the only guy that I can trust is Trump. Trump can trust me because I've never been in here, so I'm obviously not the leaker. And I trust that he's not leaking. So we're a team, and I have to have a direct line of communication. This is me parsing like 15 interviews together.
Yeah.
And so Kelly looks at Trump and Trump looks at Kelly and they say, all right, you're fired. I believe that's how it went down.
So was it something about the chain of command, or did it have anything to do with that interview that Scaramucci did last night?
Now, for some reason, I think they want to frame that perhaps the interview played a role. I doubt it.
Look, the president certainly felt that Anthony's comments were inappropriate for a person in that position. And he didn't want to burden General Kelly also with that line of succession, as I think we've made clear a few times over the course of the last couple of days to several of you individually. But General Kelly has the full authority to operate within the White House.
The follow-up question that he asked her is, does that include Jared Kushner and his daughter? And she said it includes all White House staff.
Wow.
So that supposedly, if that is true, if that can hold true, if Kushner and his boys and his daughter all have to go through Kelly, we may actually start seeing some consistency out of this White House.
One side question about this, and this was brought up by a friend of mine. Does it bother you in any way that Trump is surrounding himself with generals? Yeah.
That is a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, you have the chief of staff is a general. You have the other, I forget the other two gentlemen off the top of my head, but it is generals.
Yeah, it is.
And
I don't know. I leave that one up to the audience. I really don't know. That has crossed my mind, but I haven't spent enough time thinking about it to give you a good answer.
Right.
Because what I would generally do is I would go back and do a little research on history and see who's been successful in the past.
Yeah.
And go back.
It's something that's given me cause for a pause.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Now, maybe it's because that, Trump doesn't have the confidence to lead. These are theories that are out there. I don't know. It
could also be that Trump thinks, so if you put yourself in Trump's world, Trump's great. He's the biggest. He's the greatest. The only people that he probably truly respects, people he considers are also great, maybe are military generals. Like, I don't know. I bet you if you look back at interviews with him and whatnot, he'd say he'd probably.
Oh yeah, James Mattis. That's right, Mad Dog Mattis, and there was one other guy. I forgot.
So, Mr. Chase,
Yes,
before
sir.
we get to the high note and get out of here, because holy crap, this is a big show.
Yes, big show.
Are you ready for the sack? Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's dive deep.
OMG.
Deep thanks, Megan. Hope your show did well. Oh, wait, it got canceled. It's now time. Her Sunday show did not do well. It's now time to dig into the Club 33 sack. Hey, guys, missed you last week. Hope you're staying cool, calm, and collected as we head into the dog days of summer here in the Northern Hemisphere.
Smoky here.
So, first off, Death Mindus wrote in and says, Outlook, really? I had a picture of Outlook Express, which I included an Easter egg. If you caught it, it was an email from a Russian. But Veratuna writes in and says, hey, oh my, all the fun is in the UK at the moment with Clown Home Secretary. Quote, real people often prefer ease of use and a multitude of features to perfect unbreakable security.
Yeah, I saw that about encryption.
Yeah,
Real normal people don't need encryption.
Yeah. Who uses WhatsApp because it's end-to-end encrypted rather than because it's an incredibly user-friendly and cheap way of staying in touch with friends and family? OMG, how can people be so clueless? On other fronts, you have Seymour Hersh discussing WikiLeaks, DNC leaks, and Seth Rich revealing him to be the leaker. At the same time, the Washington Post is trying to pin the Seth Rich murder conspiracy on something manufactured by Trump. You really can't make this stuff up. It's like Hollywood is a pale imitation of real life.
No kidding.
Script writers must be pulling their hair out trying to think of something original. 2017 is turning out to be a really crazy year. Oh, and glad Chase's sack is back where it belongs. If you want to be a part of the sack, you got to get into Club 33. Go over to patreon.com/unfilter because right now there is only one spot remaining as I say these words. So get in there. And when you jump into Club 33, not only that you get to be a part of the sack, you get a direct communication into any show that you choose to involve yourself in. You also get a part of that swag club, which, Chris, we just sent out some items, right? Not too long ago.
That is true. I forget what they are. We also
had the old Nancy stickers.
We did the old Nancy stickers, and we did the discounted, at cost mugs.
Yeah, that was great.
That was cool.
But hey, if you don't want to do Club 33 or you can't afford it, that's totally cool because we want to get to our goal to bring you Unfilter Supplemental. That is our additional show that we want to bring you guys every single week. And if you jump in on that, then you get more Unfilter in your face.
And really, it's not going to be. They won't be this long if we do it twice a week.
Yeah.
This is just too long. In fact, I think part of it is when we go too long, we probably make some of the information that's like stashed in the overtime inaccessible to some folks.
Right.
So not only would it be great to break up the show a little bit, but would still equal greater content for everybody, more content. But we could also stay more nimble with stories as they change and develop really quickly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the areas we're trying to get to. Patreon.com/unfilter if you want to support us, keep us going.
Yeah.
And if you can't afford or just are not interested in being a patron,
retweet,
shares, thumbs up on the video, anything that helps let other people know about it, or like juices, any kind of system.
Write a review on iTunes if you get it there. Write a review.
Discoverability is the hardest thing because there's so much stuff out there.
A lot of noise.
Yeah. Now let's jump into this high note here. This is some interesting stuff. So let's start with one of the clips that really explains why I think we consistently try to have the high note in Unfiltered. There's a meta topic that is extremely depressing that we don't talk about a lot. And I am of the personal belief that cannabis could be a big solution for this big depressing topic. So I just want to cover a couple of the stats that give you a background that's the motivation for this recurring segment.
8 in 10 heroin addicts today started taking prescription pain meds. So remember when states went after big tobacco?
8 out of 10 started with prescription meds.
Claiming deceptive ads and misleading claims hooked people on cigarettes. Well, today states say that drug makers are falsely claiming that opioids were not addictive.
I crushed the bottom 3 vertebrae, and then they prescribed me Oxycontin. I was given this very, very strong pain medicine for a case of bronchitis.
He said you could take it up to 6 times a day if you need it. so he prescribed me more.
Doctor's the best drug dealer you can ever get.
Each of these addicts began with a doctor-prescribed painkiller.
I kind of want that sound clip, if anybody could get that for me. Doctor's the best drug dealer you could ever get.
The responsibility goes to the doctors, goes to the medical rep, goes to the pharmaceutical company.
They totally downplayed the addictive nature of their product.
Former Arizona Attorney General Grant Woods sued the tobacco industry for marketing a deadly product. His target today, the drug industry.
Heroin is back. Why? It's back because of these painkillers.
Yep.
This lawsuit today is about accountability.
25 cities, states, and counties are suing opiate manufacturers for deceptive marketing, downplaying the risk of addiction, and overstating drug benefits for chronic pain.
Everyone wanted to make money, and they didn't really want to hear the truth of what this drug and the damage it really causes.
So now, with that as our backdrop, we go into this next story that always makes me smile. I love it because cannabis can be described as this horrible drug that should, you know, if you smoke in front of children, CPS should remove them and put them in foster care.
It's a gateway drug, Chris.
It's really bad stuff, and it causes alarm. In fact, one mother was reported to police for smoking cannabis in front of her children. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have this.
According to the CDC, across cities and suburbs, more and more parents are using marijuana. Its use among adults is up nearly 50%. We visited with one group of moms who smoke pot every day, even at play dates with their kids. And they claim it makes them better parents.
Oh, snap.
For Casey Bawden and her friends, play dates
By the way,
fun.
on a technical note, you notice that nice, smooth gimbal
Yeah, that was
action?
good. That
Yeah,
was
you
good.
like that?
They, you know, when they're doing a network piece, man, they'll put the effort in.
Absolutely.
For Casey Bawden and her friends, play dates mean fun, food, and for the moms, some herbal refreshment.
Mommy needs a joint just as much as mommy needs a glass of wine.
I also need a clip of that. I also really need a clip of that. Let's cue that up again.
Just as much.
No, we gotta go back a little bit more.
Needs a joint.
Oh, geez, this is so good. Okay, here it is.
Some herbal refreshment.
Mommy needs a joint just as much as mommy needs a glass of wine. You can.
Okay, so I gotta give a tip to like anybody that wants to be like a quote unquote cannabis advocate and go on a national outlet and talk about pot. Can you just pull out the vape pen for the day?
Yeah.
Can that be the day where you don't have the ridiculously colorful bong and the really rickety looking home rolled J? Can you please just have the nice sophisticated sleek vape pen for the day?
Yeah, get some nice quality items to show.
I mean, come on, it's just like the ugliest joints I've ever seen.
Herbal refreshment.
Mommy needs a joint just as much as mommy needs a glass of wine. You can still be a good parent and use marijuana at the same time.
Today, middle-aged parents are more likely to use pot than their teenage kids.
Water chase!
For these moms, it's a panacea, taking it to treat their aches, pains, and depression. And they say, as an easy way to relax and boost their productivity. Here in California.
I do have one thing, though.
All right, what is it?
That, you know, children are very impressionable at a young age.
And any kind of habit-forming thing.
Right. And I know... you know, there's evidence out there that say that, you know, cannabis not habit forming or anything like that.
No, I mean like putting things in your mouth and sucking on them.
Right. And
that's
so,
what
you
I
know,
mean.
kids will see that and they go, hey, I want to try cigarettes or I want to try this and that at a young age when it can hamper development. And so I don't really like the fact that the parents are smoking right in front of their kids like that. That's just a little personal pet peeve.
It's funny, you know, it's funny. So the non-parent cares, and as a parent, I'm like, you know, if they want to fuck their kids up, let them.
Yeah.
I really have like
Like, I mean, they have, of course, free will to do it. I'm just going to express my opinion.
You know, the number one thing that made me never, ever, ever, ever want to smoke cigarettes in my life was being around family members who smoke cigarettes. For me, it was something that by the time I was 18, I swore to myself, because I'd been around it so much growing up, I would never smoke.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes you think you're doing one thing to influence your kids, and it turns out that you create a completely different monster.
The in front of the kids part, it's just kind of.
That's why I go back to like make it discreet with the vape pen. Like if these are discreet little vape pens, and you know you go, puff, little steam comes out.
But still, mommy, what's the smoke from? You know,
right. Well, then they gotta have an answer.
Yeah.
And they say as an easy way to relax and boost their productivity. Here in California, recreational pot use is legal.
I can smoke it and go clean my whole house and do all my laundry and just get everything done.
I feel like I am actually more attentive and focused while I am medicated. It kind of gives me that spruce of energy that I don't have.
So how do you feel about somebody smoking cigarettes in front of their kids?
Same thing. Same way.
Do you feel like one is worse than the other?
Well, I know that at least on the secondhand smoke side, I don't know about studies on marijuana smoke, but I do know that on secondhand smoke, it's terrible. I mean, I lived in a household. Thankfully, my dad stopped smoking when I was 10 or 11 years old. But, I mean, I remember vividly, like, smoke-filled houses, and I was living in
When
that.
you have a family member that stopped smoking cigarettes, there's like a while they were smoking and then after they were smoking period of your life, because, like, things that you got while they were smoking will always be infused to a degree with, like, a smell or a color. Yeah. I go back to, like, though, I really think it's really
I'm talking about studies on
disc-
secondhand smoke, not. I don't know if there's any studies on marijuana.
I wouldn't like to see, like, the thing that drives me crazy, like, if I see parents smoking with the windows up with their kids in the car. Like, that seems crazy, like, so irresponsible to me. But again, it's hard if I start passing judgment on every parental decision that parents make. I could spend a lifetime getting all worked up about it. I'd probably be on Facebook for days making some sort of rant post.
It kind of gives me that spruce of energy that I don't have.
Casey, who suffers from migraine, says prescription pills left her feeling foggy and disconnected from her kids.
Now, that's interesting, because I have had prescription pills that have also made me feel, like, really disconnected, and it was something where I had to really put a lot of effort into sort of manifest an emotional response that was adequate to the situation, and I sure stopped taking that shit. That was awful.
So she tried marijuana, having never used it before. Now she grows it on her patio, saying it's made her pain-free and a much better parent. She's even started a blog called The Cannabis Mom.
I've heard from hundreds of moms who use marijuana. They're happy that I'm out there putting it out there. There's so many moms that are still hiding because they're ashamed, and you shouldn't be ashamed.
See, so the way they're intersplicing the coverage between the two groups of moms, they're making her look like she's there lighting up joints with all of her friends in front of her kids, when every time you see the one shot they have of her smoking, her kids aren't around. So they're kind of grouping them together when it seems like this is perhaps an example of somebody who's being more responsible.
Right.
But she's kind of getting grouped with the other gals.
Yeah.
You're ashamed, and you shouldn't be ashamed.
But some health experts warn parenting on marijuana is a slippery slope.
One's reaction time may be slowed, ability to respond in an emergency, coordination may be impaired.
Like God, what if they get high or something? Or what if they got drunk or something?
Right.
That would be.
Yeah.
So that's Marijuana Moms. It's actually it's a pretty in-depth.
Mommy needs a choice.
It's a pretty in-depth piece. Isn't that great? It continues to cover them quite a bit. Like the piece goes on for another 3 minutes if you guys are interested. But there was a moment that actually caught Chase's attention. There is one politician that Chase always manages to follow.
My good buddy.
Trey Gowdy, who you always...
My good buddy. You know, Trey is always a fun character on the show.
Yeah,
However, when he speaks common sense, my ears perk up like his, and this is what happens.
Director Baum?
Wait, stop for a minute. Was that Director Bong? Sorry.
Is it Bomb? I'm not sure. Either way, it's funny.
Director Baum?
I can't tell.
In case my mom is watching, I want to be really clear. I'm not advocating for the legalization of marijuana. I will be very, very clear about that.
Okay, Trey.
However, I don't understand why it's a Schedule 1. It's certainly not treated as a inherently dangerous substance for which there is no medicinal value. It takes a tractor trailer full of marijuana to even trigger a mandatory minimum under our drug laws. So is there any appetite for researching whether or not it should remain a Schedule 1 drug?
Congressman, the administration doesn't have a position on that, but I'm happy to dialogue with your office.
It seems, they say publicly they don't have a position, yet it seems like it's entrenched in that Schedule 1 position since the 70s. Like, it's entrenched.
And we talked about the whole ditchweed concept of being used for research, and it's...
They claim like they don't have a position, but yet they have an intractable position by their very inaction.
And let me just briefly say that we strongly support research on medical use of marijuana.
Just don't give us money
and if
for
there
it.
are obstacles that we see that prevent good research.
I think what he's actually saying is we strongly support industry's ambitions to make money on cannabis. Listen to what he's saying. I think what he's actually saying is we support research for pharmaceutical companies to make proprietary science version of pot and sell it. Listen.
There are obstacles that we see that prevent good research. We want to address those obstacles because if there are component elements of marijuana that could be put through the FDA process and turned into medicines that could help people in this country.
See, one of the things that a lot of medical cannabis doctors think is a big part of what makes cannabis work is it's this is going to be a debaggy term, but it is a whole product. You have something that grows, and as it grows, there are nuances that change things, that make little tiny differences at thousands of every stage of the growth of the plant. And when you create a synthetic version of something, you create a exact version of one thing, and it becomes a static quantity that you then can measure and distribute. But it lacks the organic, sort of esoteric nature of the grown product, which seems to actually affect effectiveness, at least from the discussion I've watched between different debaters that were talking about creating synthetic cannabis versus growing it.
Right.
And there's good arguments on both sides. Like, the side of creating a synthetic product, the argument is professional doctors can give you a very measured amount of a specific aspect of THC or cannabis to help you, where they can't give you that same measured amount with a cannabis plant. But at the end of the day, studies show over and over again that the organically grown cannabis plants are more effective.
That could help people in this country. We want to do that. So we do think there's some potential, and we support research on the subject.
Well, just so everyone's clear, methamphetamine is scheduled what?
I believe it's scheduled
2.
How does this guy not know?
Cocaine is scheduled what?
Also 2.
Cocaine base is scheduled what? 2. So it is scheduled lower than marijuana. And again, you can schedule something and still not have it scheduled as a 1. And I would encourage the powers that be, whoever you need to consult with in the administration, to at least explore whether or not it's scheduled correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is so Trey Gowdy's banging on that side, and then there is Cory Booker on the other side with a bill that would legalize marijuana at the federal level.
Completely.
New Jersey Senator Cory Booker's newest goal is to legalize marijuana across the country. The Democrat introduced legislation today that would remove marijuana from the list of controlled substances. Booker says marijuana laws unfairly affect poor and minority citizens. Right now, marijuana is legal in 8 states and the District of Columbia.
Oh boy, Chase, I got good news.
I see.
Mommy needs a joint.
Mommy needs her joint.
That's good.
Mommy needs a joint.
Oh, that's good. The last minute submission by producer Matt. That's worth smacking the microphone for.
Good.
So yeah, we'll see where Booker's bill goes.
Well, right now I don't think there's support on the R side of things in Congress.
Hey Chase,
so,
Chase.
Yes,
Claiming my time.
It's time for us to go. We gotta
All right,
go.
Maxine. I'm sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
right, that's
I'm
right.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Mommy needs a joint.
Yeah, mommy needs a joint. Just like Chris needs some views over on his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Chris Fisher.
Nice.
Where you can check out his awesome trip from Montana. It was incredibly
Thanks,
done.
buddy. Thanks, buddy.
I love that, man. I love
Thank
that
you.
stuff.
Thank you. Where can people find your radically independent content, Mr. Chase?
Well, I like gaming and geeking up with the community.
Yeah.
Over at geekgamer.tv.
Yeah.
We do things
Yeah.
on Twitch, twitch.tv/geekgamertv.
What about, did you say the Twitter? What about the Twitter?
At GeekGamerTV, and also my
Thank
Twitter,
you.
at Nunes, N-U-N-E-S. What about your Twitter?
The
You have
original
a person-
radical. The original radical over there, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
My
Radical.
Twitter? Oh, thank
Yeah,
you for
yeah.
asking.
Yeah, I want to know.
I'm on the Twitter.
Do I follow you?
We should check.
Let me check.
At Chris LAS. See if you follow that guy.
Yes, I got you.
Okay,
At
good,
Chris LAS.
good.
Got it.
Also, you can follow the network at Jupiter Signal. We'd love to hear from you there as well. And give us your thoughts and ideas over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact. You don't have to go anywhere yet, though. The overtime's coming. Plenty of more stuff in the overtime. But if you do got to run, we understand. We also are very busy, so it's fine. It's fine. Maybe pause it now and come back later. and get the overtime.
That's the best thing about a podcast.
That is the best thing. That is the best
you
thing.
Can come back.
In the meantime, you are also welcome to join us next week. We'll be live on Wednesday. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get the live time. jblive.tv is where you watch. That's also where the chat room is embedded, so you can get engaged in that conversation.
By the way, I've heard this rumor, Chris, and maybe we'll have more information on next week's show, that there might be something new that people will be able to join. I have a feeling.
Like a discord.me/JupiterColony.
Yeah, discord.me/JupiterColony.
Also, there may be a very newness edition of User Air very soon.
How new of that?
Perhaps the very next episode.
Very new.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this week. If you're not sticking around for the overtime, well, then we'll see you right back here
next week.
Pow. And with the AC the whole dang time, Mr. Chase. The whole
Very
dang
comfortable
time.
in here.
JBTitles.com. JBTitles, let's go pick our title. That was a long-ass show.
That's what happens when you have the mooch doing what he did. I blame the mooch.
Dude, Trump has just been keeping this show busy. That's for the deaths.
Oh, man. It's only been 6 months, dude. It's only been 6 months.
JBTitles.
At this rate, I'm going to lose hair.
I know it. The JBTitles pages. There we go. Rich developments.
Oh, God, that's good.
I just see the problem is I am almost too chicken shit to put Seth Rich on the cover again.
No, that's just Rich developments. It's not Seth Rich developments.
Yeah, but come on.
I know, but I
could
a very
do it.
good one.
Poor Seth Rich, Game of Trolls. Poor Seth Rich. No.
I like Rich developments because it's like it's a double entendre. It's rich as in juicy and rich as in Seth Rich. I know.
I get it too. I get it.
It's
I
good.
Get it.
That's very good.
Okay.
And it's from Show Me the Money. Come on.
Yeah,
Come on.
I do. Oh, I already have that off there. The problem is that I feel like it's really toxic to put Seth Rich on the cover, but with that title, I have to put Seth Rich.
You have to.
Yeah.
And you know what? Don't let it back you down because remember, it comes down to your patrons. That's the people.
Yeah. Although we get pulled, which sucks.
I know.
And then people who are not open-minded also brand us as crazy, but that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Rich Developments is clearly winning, so we got to go with the will of the people. It seems like the decision is not. The decision has been taken out. I mean, I could influence a few super delegates.
You are a communist,
but
sir.
At this point, there's no way.
Sir, I have not yielded the floor. I have not yielded the floor.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time. That was good. All right. Thank you, everybody watching live. I hope you enjoyed the show.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks so much. Have a great week. Stay cool. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll definitely. Yeah, I agree, Murphy. I hope we get that goal, too. Thanks, everybody, for supporting us that does. Bye, guys. Oh, I'll be back tomorrow with Coda Radio.
Coda Radio tomorrow.
Coda Radio Live. And then I'm out.
All right, bye. See you, bye.